CFAX Victoria.
An iHeart radio station. If it's happening,
It's here.
CFAX 1070.
Good morning. It is 6 o'clock on this Thursday, May 21st. Sunny, highs of 21, a little cooler by the water, per usual, is what you can expect out of this day. We'll get you the full forecast in just a moment, but right now the news begins. And we say good morning to Lisa Best.
Good morning, Ryan, and thank you. Soccer ball being kicked around over the cost of FIFA. The years-long question of whether Canada co-hosting next month's World Cup games is worth the cost, and it's in the harsh spotlight after new figures show the cost of the 12 games to be played between Vancouver and Toronto are working out to about $82 million apiece, over $1 billion total. CTV's Andrew Johnson has some of the latest reaction.
We're not getting any of the major elimination matches. We thought that if we were hosting the World Cup, we would actually see something of consequence.
The host cities are counting on a big benefit. BC's premier says the tournament will bring 1 million visitors to Vancouver over the next 5 years. The mayor has led the charge.
This is an amazing opportunity. It's going to be a month-long commercial.
The latest polling from Leger showed close to 3/4 of Canadians support hosting World Cup matches, but a majority indicated their biggest concern is taxpayer costs.
When it comes to the cost of the tickets, that is on the mind of BC MLAs. A good portion of the question period yesterday dealt with ticket-related issues, including Premier David Eby attending at least 2 of the matches. House Leader Mike Farnworth says it's important that the Premier be there.
I'll just remind members of the House that this province is hosting an international event. The Prime Minister will be here, the Governor General will be here, the Lieutenant Governor will be here, and it is entirely appropriate that the Premier of the province of British Columbia is in attendance at those at events where those leaders are present, including leaders from around the world.
Mike Farnworth says the ticket policy announcement last year remains in place as the maximum of 2 government ministers are permitted to attend per game, and each can bring only 1 staff member. Family members are barred from attending on government-allotted tickets, which sounds fair. In Vancouver yesterday, the Premier meeting and playing nice with the Prime Minister a day after accusing Mark Carney of making the agenda of separatist premiers a priority. Mike Couture has details.
The Prime Minister is a friend to British Columbia.
Carney pointed out 1/3 of the projects identified as in the national interest are in BC. He also told the Vancouver Board of Trade he's looking for partners, not pushback.
We don't want to hear what people are against. We want to hear what they're for. And if you're for something, we will get behind it.
On Wednesday, Carney vowed that plans for a pipeline carrying oil from Alberta through BC will only happen under certain conditions, and that includes First Nation consultation. The Supreme Court of Canada expected to say today whether it will hear BC's appeal of a ruling that found the UN Declaration of Rights on Indigenous Peoples and provincial mineral claims regime are inconsistent. The BC Court of Appeal ruled in December that the Provincial Declaration of the Right of Indigenous People Act, or DRIPA, should be properly interpreted to incorporate UNDRIP into laws of BC with immediate legal effect. Attorney General Nikki Sharma providing an update on the current status.
So we're hard at work right now coming up with a durable solution to the challenge in DRIPA. I expect to hear from our appeal application soon from the Supreme Court of Canada. That will be one avenue to fixing the legal challenges that we face. We're working with our partners right now to come up with a solution.
But no assurance was given. A little bit of good news at the gas pumps this morning. You may have noticed the price is down slightly, 2 cents. The price for a litre regular now sitting around $2.10 in Greater Victoria. It's up or down from that, depending on what gas station you pull into, but look for around $2.10. Here's gas price expert Dan McTagg.
The world's missing 1.6 billion barrels of oil. What does that mean? That's the equivalent of not anyone using any form of oil for a full 16 days anywhere in the world. So it's very serious, and it means that gas prices could go up not as much.
McTagg says after a 2-cent drop overnight, prices may drop again, but we are hearing that prices could climb again slightly by next week, so the yo-yo continues. And screen time for kids. What are we thinking? There's new guidance from experts.
Live real life. That's the motto of a new Surgeon General report on the dangers of too much screen time for kids. The report, calling it an urgent public health issue, found some kids are now spending more time on devices than they do sleeping or attending school. Experts warning even some toddlers are now spending multiple hours a day in front of a screen, setting up potential mental health issues and poor developmental and educational outcomes.
Experts are saying children younger than 18 months should have no screen time at all. Older than that, 2 hours per day, max. And that's your news to 6:05. Your CFAX News Poll question we're asking, is it worth $1 billion investment to host 13 World Cup games between Vancouver and Toronto? 92% saying no. Right now on our website, you can vote, CFAX1070.com, also the iHeartRadio app. And Lisa Best, your news time is 6:06.
I wonder, by the way, speaking of that news poll question, because I feel like every time we have a massive world sporting event, we spend all of the months leading up to it grumbling about it. And then it actually happens and everybody's like, oh, this is cool.
I think when it happens, it's like Disney. Oh, we're very excited. But then afterwards, the postmortem of looking at how much spinoff did we get from this? And maybe the numbers are going to be there. But, you would say with our website, maybe it skews a little bit older. But Twitter right now is saying 100% no.
Yeah.
So you're right. When we're in the thick of it, it's a party. But it's also a party that's not happening here in Victoria. It's Vancouver anyway.
It's true. But yeah.
So, you're right. All of these events leading up to it, we get this sticker shock. Then it happens. We're excited about it. And then afterwards, the dust settles. But I don't know about the economic spinoff. Things have changed in the world, and I think what's important for us in Vancouver is that the fact that we're actually hosting games. The money aside, I think, and I know how we feel about FIFA, but the fact that these players are coming and that we're going to get games, I think it's important for us to host something of this magnitude. I don't like this. I don't like the price either.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody does. And I certainly don't like to see it saddle on taxpayers. We'll see what happens.
CFAX1070.com. You can vote on the news poll. Let's talk about CFAX 1070 Sports. In the BCHL, the final round of the playoffs continue, and they were last night in Nanaimo, where the Brooks Bandits won 2-1 in overtime. That means that Brooks now lead the Clippers in the best-of-7 series, 3-1. And it all heads back to Brooks, Alberta now for Friday in Game 5. And Brooks will have a chance to win their second straight championship if they take Game 5, since they're up 3-1. But we'll see what happens there. Can the Clippers fight back? In the NHL, Montreal Canadiens visit the Carolina Hurricanes tonight. It is Game 1 of the NHL's Eastern Conference Final. Montreal coming off a 7-game series win over Buffalo, which ended with that big 3-2 overtime road win back on Monday. Meanwhile, Carolina hasn't played since May the 9th after back-to-back sweeps of Ottawa and Philadelphia. And the Vegas Golden Knights landed the first blow in the NHL's Western Conference Final last night. Vegas beat Colorado 3-2 thanks to an early 3-1 lead and a 36-save effort from Carter Hart. The Avalanche made several defensive miscommunications as they juggled their blue line pairings, with superstar Cale Makar sidelined by an upper body injury. And in women's hockey, the Montreal Victoire brought home the team's first Walter Cup last night with a 4-0 win over the Ottawa Charge in game number 4. That also means it's the first time a Canadian team has won the Professional Women's Hockey League title. The Minnesota Frost won the championship for the first 2 years. Toronto Blue Jays in New York to take on the Yankees. It's the finale of their 4-game series. Toronto won last night 2-1 in that game. It was delayed by more than 2 hours because of rain. The Yankees could take the series win, though, if they get the win today, having defeated the Jays in the first 2 contests. And Seattle defeated the Chicago White Sox 5-4, also in baseball. That's your sports to 6:10. Let's get a look at CFAX 1070 traffic and weather now. It is early on the commute and usually fairly uneventful. There was a collision on Souk Road, though, kind of near the Veterans Memorial Parkway earlier this morning. When I first got in, I was noticing that, but it seemed to be clear now. If there's anything left over from that and you're going by it, please do text at 71010. Now let's take a look at the BC ferries. We've got a 7 o'clock sailing next. There's still some room left. There are mainly sailings every hour out of BC ferries today from Swartz Bay to Swanson as we're getting into a busier time of year. For the weather forecast, we've got a mix of sun and cloud today, but mainly on the sunny side, I would say. Highs of 21 degrees, a little cooler by the water. Tonight, clear skies, lows down to 11. Tomorrow, sunshine, highs of 21 again, as expected. Saturday, sunshine, highs of 20, kind of as expected, like I was mentioning yesterday. We've sort of just settled into this nice, calm little stretch of decently pleasant weather. The clouds and maybe some rain returning into Sunday and Monday, though, in our longer range forecast. Right now, what are the temperatures? Well, if you are in Oak Bay, it is 9 degrees. In Shawnigan Lake, it's 7. Opening bells for North American stock markets ringing a little later this hour. So while we await that, let's take a look at how yesterday closed with Aaron Sousa.
Canada's main stock index ended trading higher yesterday. Toronto's S&P TSX was up 420 to close at 34,161. In New York, the Dow Jones gained 645 and the Nasdaq rose by 399. In Tokyo this morning, the Nikkei shot up by almost 1,900 points. The Hang Seng in Hong Kong, however, lost 264. Our dollar is trading this morning at 72.62 cents U.S. Prime Minister Mark Carney and BC Premier David Eby have agreed to negotiate BC's economic priorities and Ottawa's role in major national development projects. The talks may ease tensions around energy after Eby criticized Ottawa's focus on Alberta pipeline proposals. Officials managing the federal government's return to office plans are concerned about Ottawa's transit system. An internal memo says 2 federal employees met in February with Ottawa's mayor to discuss the city's readiness to support an increased on-site presence. And Uber drivers are bracing for World Cup traffic and tension in Vancouver and Toronto. From the Canadian Press, I'm Aaron Sousa.
Ryan and Lisa, mornings on CFAX 1070. Oversleepers, catch all the highlights on the latest audio podcast at CFAX1070.com and on the free iHeartRadio app.
Good morning. Welcome to Thursday here on the CFAX Morning Show. Glad you could be here. I'm Ryan. We got Lisa here. Lisa, how you doing?
I'm really well.
Yeah?
The weather's good.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about Sunday for you.
Sunday is, of course, the Oak Bay Half Marathon.
We're getting some rain, it looks like.
Well, you know what? So I'm looking at the forecast. This is important, actually, because this weekend's a lot of things. You got the Oak Bay Half Marathon, the Swiftsure International Yacht Race.
Very nice.
That's going to be happening.
So the runners can watch the sailors.
Yeah, we got all this stuff going on. So the weather is kind of important this weekend, and I was looking at that rain for Sunday, like you mentioned. It kind of looks like it arrives later in the day. Like maybe into the evening even on Sunday.
Okay.
It's long-range forecast stuff,
you like
though.
That?
So you never know, but at least right now it looks like maybe it'll stay dry but overcast to start Sunday. So if you are going to be running the streets of Oak Bay in the half marathon or the other events, maybe you're going to be out on a sailboat in the Strait of Juan de Fuca somewhere.
I wonder if sailors mind the water. Or is that kind of redundant?
Yeah, exactly.
Already.
We got enough water anyways. It's just,
raining. It's just one more thing.
Rain off of a sailor's back? Or is that just a duck?
I would hope it's sailors too. Swiftsure, some of them are going so fast, I don't think the rain can keep up with them. I like the fact with Swiftsure that there's more people on the shore sometimes than there is in the water. And some of the cameras that come out for this, I mean, there's cameras worth more than my car.
Oh, yeah.
Taking photos. It's so fantastic. So Clover Point would be sort of your point for mustering if you're looking to hang out and talk to people. And, of course, there'll be sailors there, too, which is kind of neat.
Yeah.
I tried it. I tried sailing.
Have you?
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
When I tried it. I did not get hit by the boom.
That's good.
I was happy about
you're
that.
already halfway there.
They said it was good luck. I did not believe them. I thought that was kind of sketchy. I thought they were playing a joke on me. I did not let the boom hit me.
I love sailing. I just I feel like I'm not the kind of guy who needs to upkeep a boat.
Well, they say if you want to spend money, buy a boat or a pool because you're just going to keep throwing cash into it. But I don't see too many people out in their boat who look unhappy.
That's true. I guess, so
in the end, whatever you're paying for, whether it's that or FIFA, you should just have a good time while you're doing it.
I've always been of the mind that you want to be the person who has a friend with a boat.
Oh, see, that's like having a friend with a pickup truck.
Yeah, you gotta make good friends.
That's very smart.
I just need to be more strategic. I haven't got a sailboat friend yet.
No,
I'll get there.
Okay, yeah, you get a friend for all these fun things, right? You got a friend for this, friend for that.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Well, Swiftsure International Yacht Race this weekend. We've got the Oak Bay Half Marathon and some rain coming in maybe Sunday night. That's sort of what we're looking at here. We've got lots to talk about this morning, including what's going on in the news. Lisa, what's happening?
Alaska's watching BC. The governor there ordering the state legislature to look at advancing a natural gas line deemed a top priority for the state, which is a similar project in BC, which is facing legal opposition. Mike Dunleavy has declared the liquefied natural gas line a top priority in his final months in office. Some legislators have expressed concerns about the lack of key financial details. Yeah, that'd be important. The development comes as the BC Supreme Court, of course, is set to weigh in on petitions filed by First Nation hereditary chief on the province's decision to approve a 900-kilometer LNG pipeline feeding a facility near the Alaskan border. Latest from the U.S. and U.S. aircraft carrier arriving in the Caribbean as tensions rise between the U.S. and Cuba. The U.S. Southern Command said Wednesday that the USS Nimitz strike group has entered the region. The U.S., of course, applying more pressure on Cuba by cutting off the country's main source of oil from Venezuela. The Trump administration also unsealing charges of murder and conspiracy against Cuba's former president, Raul Castro, the brother of longtime dictator Fidel Castro, a form of pressure on the communist regime to accept a change in leadership. Changing the guard of sorts, too, on TV tonight. Tonight is the final episode of The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. It's also the final episode of the CBS Late Night Show altogether, on air since David Letterman started hosting back in 1993. Colbert's 11-year run comes to the end for what CBS owner Paramount says was a purely financial decision, unrelated at all to Colbert's frequent criticism of the U.S. president. And that is your news to 6:18.
We're mentioning the Swiftsure International Yacht Race. Josh and Jade yesterday spoke to Kirk Palmer, who's the race chair for the big yacht race, and he talked a bit about where and when to see it.
Well, the Clover Point is the best place to go. The race starts at basically 10 o'clock if there's any wind at all. There is I believe it's the Lions group put on a pancake breakfast down there starting at 8 o'clock. And, that's where all the boats will be lined up in front of Clover Point, effectively.
So you get some pancakes around 8. The boats cross the start line around 10 in the morning right off Clover Point.
This is what day?
Saturday.
Just to be clear, because Sunday's the running race.
Yeah.
All right.
Saturday morning, the boats leave, and then if the wind is there, they all come back, before Sunday evening is the goal.
If.
But, I mean, some of these things, by the way, if you don't know, like there's several races. It's not just one race. And the longest one does take them right out into the open Pacific Ocean.
Cool.
And then they come back. So it does take them a long time. Sometimes, it's well into Sunday before some of them get back, depending on the winds. So
this is the 81st.
81st. You've been doing this in Victoria. It's the largest, I believe, race of this kind in like the Pacific Northwest of the continent. So it's
fantastic.
It's a big one.
It's so nice seeing so many boats out in the water at once.
Yeah.
That's the photo.
Oh yeah, especially if you get some wind, you get the spinnakers up and all that. That's
cool.
They're
very pretty.
Different thing to talk about coming up. The wildfire season is approaching us. Emergency planning is happening, and for people with dementia and their loved ones, that can mean a little extra thinking ahead, according to the Alzheimer Society of BC and Yukon, who have some tips and resources for those who need to make those considerations. So we're going to speak to them coming up in just a moment after traffic and weather. CFAX Morning Show brought to you by Coastal Heat Pumps. For a comfortable home no matter the season, big savings on your heating bill. Talk to Coastal Heat Pumps. Designed for comfort, the South Island's Elite Plus Fujitsu Air Stage dealer. Traffic and weather. We had a little collision on Souk Road to start the morning. Before I even got on air, it seems to be all cleared. This was kind of in the Langford area. If you see any residual backup, let me know at 7:10:10. But I haven't heard anything, so I'm going to say that looks like it's all done and dusted. No other problems out there right now. For BC Ferries, Swartz Bay to Swassen, 7 o'clock sailing is next. Lots of room for a vehicle space, or I should say lots of vehicle deck space available. And for the weather forecast, it's pretty stable for a few more days. So kind of like what we had yesterday is what we got again today. Mainly sunny, highs around 21, but cooler by the water. Stable again with just some sunshine, highs of 21 for Friday and Saturday. Sunday's the pivot date, starts to cloud over by later in the day. Rain, at least that's the long-range forecast. We'll see where that rain exactly falls. But right now, it looks like it holds off until later in the Sunday and into Monday as well.
Ryan and Lisa are ready when you are.
Good morning.
Day or night, find the highlights under latest audio at CFAX1070.com and on the free iHeartRadio app.
Thinking about emergency planning when somebody in your life has dementia, what extra things do you need to think about if, say, you're trying to think about what to do in case of a wildfire or some other emergency that strikes here? The Alzheimer Society of BC and Yukon putting together some tips for just that. And we're talking to Colleen Cahoon, the manager of community service with the society, on the line to talk us through some things to get us started. Colleen, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you?
Great to talk to you here. So, yeah, I guess that's a whole other dimension to this. You know, you think about your emergency plan. What are you going to do? What kind of stuff do you have ready in case of all these different emergencies? And then that's a whole different complication if somebody you have or yourself, are dealing with dementia. So talk us through what kind of things we need to be thinking about in that context.
Yeah. So in that context, thinking about someone with dementia, something like an emergency situation, they may not be able to communicate their needs at the time when something happens, and they may not understand what's going on. So we need to think well ahead of those things, and not just in wildfire season, but any time, but particularly at this time of year. What is it that they need? Getting a plan in place, either working with them if they're in the stage of dementia that they can contribute to that, and trying to figure out what they need in those events. So we say to people, plan early and talk it through, plan ahead, and think about, for example, a routine is really important for someone living with dementia. So think about what would that look like if, say, there was a wildfire in their area. What would that look like to move them to a different location, and thinking all those steps through.
Well, why don't you take us through a few of the first ones to think about?
Yeah, so I think one thing to think about is having a kit ready. So everyone, of course, has to have this, but having your emergency kit with everything in it. If it's a person living with dementia living on their own and there's no one, your family's not near them, having those key people aware and notified that they're there, so they need to have something like that. Thinking about where would they go. So is there a respite care bed that they could go into? Is there a place that they could go that has everything they need to be safe and comfortable? So I think it's similar to thinking about what we all need in terms of what the plan looks like, but the planning ahead is a bit more important, because we need to make sure that they're safe and comfortable and it doesn't cause significant distress.
And when an event actually does happen, I mean, heaven forbid things do actually come to pass, but if it does happen, I guess, is there an extra thing about how do you deal with somebody who is dealing with dementia and might not be kind of in that fully present state of mind in the middle of an emergency?
Yeah.
How do you navigate that?
Yeah, so I think it's about staying calm and realizing that they may not understand what's going on. Checking in with them, because they won't be able to communicate necessarily to you what's happening for them. So if they're distressed or they're hurt, they can't communicate that to you. So I think they need to really be calm with the person and try to make sure that they're feeling that you're checking out what's going on for them at the time. We know communication often gets impacted with dementia, and so that'll be an extra important step.
Colleen, you have a walk coming up next weekend. Can you tell us a bit about the fundraiser?
Yeah, we have the Walk for Alzheimer's coming up next weekend, the IG Walk for Alzheimer's, and it's going to be at Fisherman's Wharf at 10 a.m. And so it's a great opportunity to raise awareness about dementia. We know there's lots of stigma with dementia, and so it's a fun event for people to get together, and it helps us raise funds for our programs and services.
Well, Colleen Cahoon, Manager of Community Services with the Alzheimer's Society of BC and Yukon. Some things to think about. We've got the walk coming up, not this weekend, but next weekend. And, of course, starting to think about that emergency planning. If people want to find out more, where can they go?
They can go to our website, which is www.alzheimersca.BC, or they can call our First Link Dementia Helpline, and they'll be able to talk through everyone's individual situation and help them make a plan, which is 1-800-936-6033.
Hey, thanks for spending some time with us this morning.
Okay, great. Thanks so much. Take care. Bye.
We'll take a break. 6:30 News next on CFAX.
This May, iHeartRadio celebrates Asian Heritage Month. Discover powerful stories, vibrant cultures, and unforgettable music. From inspiring podcasts to playlists that span East, South, Southeast, and West Asian artists. We're honoring the voices shaping our world. Listen now on the free iHeartRadio app. And at iHeartRadio.ca.
CFAX Victoria,
an iHeart radio station. If it's happening,
it's here.
CFAX 1070.
Well, good morning. It's 6:30 on Thursday, May 21st. A mostly sunny day today. Highs of 21 degrees. We'll get you the full forecast in just a moment, but right now the news begins. And we say good morning to Lisa Best.
Good morning. Prime Minister Mark Carney says a new pipeline carrying oil from Alberta through BC will only happen under certain conditions, including consultation of First Nations involved. Carney made the comments in Vancouver yesterday, where he met with BC Premier David Eby and also local business leaders.
The first is the building of Pathways, renamed the Oil Sands Alliance. This is the world's largest carbon capture, utilization, and storage project. Secondly, it requires that British Columbians should share substantial economic and financial benefits from projects that include or impact them. And thirdly, requires fully respecting Canada's duty to consult under Section 35 of the Constitution. Non-negotiable.
Carney also said that while Ottawa will adjust to what people want, it is essential that a resolution is found in a timely manner on topics such as pipeline and others that will move Canada forward. A Victoria councillor trying to move forward on proposing new restrictions on the sale and storage of spray paint in an effort to reduce tagging, graffiti vandalism, the growing cost of cleanup that's happening across the city in relation to this bad habit. And Councillor Stephen Hammond will bring a motion to the Committee of the Whole today, asking city staff to explore bylaw options that include banning spray paint sales to minors, requiring secure or staff-controlled outlets in retail stores, and introducing signage in stores warning about misuse. The motion also calls for staff to consult with retailers, police at the DVBA, local First Nations youth organizations, schools, art groups, and the like before returning with recommendations. City figures, including the motion showing graffiti cost cleanup across departments, has increased in recent years from about $429,000 in 2023 to an estimated $472,000 last year. Those totals do not include work done by businesses, property owners, and community groups. Gig workers driving passengers to and from World Cup festivities starting next month are bracing for traffic and tension throughout the tournament. They foresee unruly, impatient, and alcohol-fueled crowds clogging the streets of Vancouver and Toronto, constraining how many customers they can actually serve. Christine Hubbard is managing director of Beck Taxi in Toronto. She says drivers will be contending with a range of match day closers.
Pack your patience is really the message, because there's not really any way we can prepare for this. You can imagine we only represent about 1,200 vehicles maximum on the road at any time, but I expect we will see another 100,000 Uber drivers descending on our city. It's going to make getting around that much more difficult.
Some 650,000 expected guests will be coming to both Vancouver and Toronto next month in July. Barry Sawyer is the national president of the United Food and Commercial Workers, which represents Uber drivers.
The drivers have asked us, and we've asked Uber to make sure that they communicate out to all incoming passengers that, hey, Toronto is, at this point, is going to have a huge influx of people in the Greater Toronto area for the World Cup. Therefore, traffic will be busier and all that. And be patient. That's not a driver's fault, the fact that the roads are busier.
The city's going to be cram-packed full, that's for sure. Uber wouldn't say whether it would acquiesce to the request, but regularly reminds riders and drivers to treat each other with courtesy and respect. New health restrictions around Ebola forcing a U.S.-bound flight to divert to Montreal.
Online plane tracker FlightAware says the flight was en route from Paris to Detroit. It landed at Trudeau International Airport. The airline, Air France, says a passenger from the Democratic Republic of Congo was denied entry to the U.S. It says it's due to new American rules that travelers from certain countries, including the Congo, can only enter the U.S. through Washington. The restrictions come as a deadly outbreak of a rare type of Ebola sweeps the Congo and neighboring Uganda. The World Health Organization has reported almost 600 suspected cases and 139 suspected deaths. Aaron Sousa, The Canadian Press.
And with the weather warming, the Cleveland Clinic offering advice on swim safety for kids. The organization saying swimmers should be taking frequent breaks, stay hydrated. Adults, keep your eyes on the kids because drowning can happen silently within 20 seconds. Without splashing or yelling, they simply slip beneath the surface, and severe brain injury can occur 4 to 6 minutes without oxygen. Drowning is one of the number one top causes of death in young children. And that is your news to 6:35. Your CFAX 1070 news poll question this morning, we're asking about the cost of FIFA. We had some sticker shock yesterday when we learned that the games that we're hosting in Vancouver and Toronto are going to cost us about $1 billion. Are you on board for that? Over 90% say no on our website, even more say no on Twitter X. You can vote there or also on social media and iHeartRadio app. Lots of options for you. That's your news to 6:37.
Thanks, Lisa, and good morning. Welcome to Thursday, another sunny one today with a few clouds. Temperatures around about 21 degrees. Kind of like yesterday and kind of like tomorrow.
Yeah.
I like that the weather's easy right now.
Take it.
It's just sort of the same for a few days. Right up until about Sunday, that's where it changes. And I'll get you the full forecast in just a moment. Right now, though, let's get to the sports. We are doing a little look at the BCHL playoffs first off because they're into the final round. The Nanaimo Clippers, though, are now finding themselves in a bit of a hole versus the Brooks Bandits. Last night in Nanaimo, Brooks with the 2-1 win in overtime. That means they now lead the Clippers in the best-of-7 series 3-1. And Game 5 is heading to Brooks, Alberta. So Brooks, they're going to have a home ice advantage in Game 5 and the ability to take the whole thing with a win. And if they do, it'll be their second straight championship. They are the defending champs. And Nanaimo trying to stay alive come that game tomorrow. So we'll keep following that. Over to the NHL, Montreal Canadiens visiting the Carolina Hurricanes tonight. It's Game 1 of the NHL's Eastern Conference Final. And the Vegas Golden Knights landed the first blow in the NHL's Western Conference Final last night. Vegas beating Colorado 4-2 thanks to an early 3-0 lead and a 36-save effort from Carter Hart. And in women's hockey, the Montreal Victoire have brought the cup, the Walter Cup, home after a win last night, a 4-0 victory over the Ottawa Charge in Game 4. It's the first time a Canadian team has now won the Professional Women's Hockey League title after the Minnesota Frost did it for the first couple of years. Toronto Blue Jays in New York to take on the Yankees in the finale of their 4-game series. Toronto won yesterday 2-1 after a game that was rain delayed for several hours. And we will see those two teams finish up the 4-game set today. Chicago White Sox falling to the Seattle Mariners 5-4 yesterday. And the MVP looked like the MVP once again in basketball, and the Western Conference Finals are all knotted up. Canadian Shai Gilgeous-Alexander bounced back from a subpar series opener to score 30 points as the Oklahoma City Thunder beat the San Antonio Spurs 122-113. The Thunder finished with a 57-25 edge in bench scoring, plus a 27-10 edge in points off turnovers. That's your Sports 2, 639. Well, this CFAX Morning Show is brought to you by Bluebird Cabs. If you need a cab, download the new Bluebird Cabs app at Bluebird Cabs Ltd. They're proudly local and Canadian-owned and run since 1946. So the roads are actually looking pretty typical right now. No crashes, no accidents. So we will have that paving work yet again on Cook Street. Right now they're doing it either side of Finlayson, and there's still that restricted access eastbound on Finlayson towards Cook, towards that construction zone. So like on Quadra, you can't take Finlayson over towards Cook right now. That way is also blocked. And for the BC Ferries, no sailing rights right now. For the weather, we are looking at a day that is going to be much like yesterday. Mainly sunny, highs around 21 degrees, cooler if you're by the water. Clear skies tonight, lows to 11. And then tomorrow, it's the same thing again. Sunny, highs at 21. Saturday, same thing again. Sundays where we might get the clouds rolling in, and maybe by later in the day, right now at least, it's looking like the showers will arrive later into Sunday. That could evolve a little bit as we get closer to, but that's currently what we're looking at. And then once that rain does start, maybe late Sunday, it could carry on through Monday as well. For the temperatures right now, if you are in Langford, we've got 8 degrees, and in Saanich by the University of Victoria, it is 9 degrees. On the markets, the opening bell's just ringing for North American stock markets, so we will look at how things closed off yesterday to set us up. It was big gains mostly. S&P TSX up 420 to 34,161. The Dow is up 645 to 50,009, so back over that 50,000 mark. The Canadian dollar at 72.5 cents US, which is down, was down a little bit from the previous close.
Ryan and Lisa, mornings on CFAX 1070.
Well, in the news, Lisa, you're talking about the final show for Stephen Colbert and The Late Show. That's going to be tonight on TV.
Right.
I'm thinking about the time I actually went in person.
Oh, you did?
I did.
To Colbert Show?
I did. So I was in New York in 2016, the only time I've ever been.
Okay.
And one of the things I wanted to do is that classic thing, go watch one of the tapings of these programs.
Yeah.
It could have been any of them. Like they've got all of the different
yeah, you had lots of choices because they always need a fresh audience.
Yeah, and it's always free, but you got to still get like a ticket. But you get your seat, and if you can get in, you go and you watch them for free, and they get an audience. And this was about a year into him taking over from from David Letterman.
Right.
And I remember them still kind of finding their footing. It's certainly changed over the years, the way the show went.
It was a big change from Letterman because he hosted for so long, and he went away and came back, and so.
And then, of course, this is a theater attached to Ed Sullivan. I mean, his name's on it.
Right,
the Ed
historic.
Sullivan Theater.
Yes.
And that was the thing that I thought was really neat is it wasn't so much, well, it was seeing a TV show like this getting filmed and seeing how the sausage is made. That was kind of cool. But also just being in that space and feeling that history. Like, this is where the Beatles performed for Ed Sullivan. This is this room. This is that place. And they'd really done it up as well. I think the Colbert team had gussied it up quite a bit.
Okay.
And I remember thinking this was just a neat little bit of history to go sit in for a bit. And I was thinking about that today as I think about the final show for Stephen Colbert. It's also the final show for this theater, at least in this capacity, because they're not replacing it. They're not replacing it with a different show. They're just ending the show.
Yeah. And the reason why they're ending it, I mean, we have, of course, a lot of different...
There's theories.
Yeah, there's theories. Well, there's lots of theories floating around. But the fact that he's had a lot of, very public strife with the current U.S. administration and the current U.S. president, a lot of people find it very unfortunate that the politics is entering the realm. But he also was going pretty hard at the president. But should that pull someone off the air? Well, it's a right to speak your mind. How it works in business is different because if they happen to have advertisers pulling out because of it, then that would change things. We'll never know the whole story probably until he's actually off air, but he fought long and hard to stay on, as other hosts have as well, who've been under fire from the Trump administration. I really like Stephen Colbert. I think he's extremely intelligent. You couldn't do the job of a host unless you are intelligent. Letterman always would dumb it down. So would Jay Leno, but they are smart people. And so I hope something replaces it because it creates a bit of a dearth when we lose something like that. And I think we really kind of need the humor and that intelligence right now, especially coming from hosts of this magnitude.
Well, will you watch it? It's the final episode for Stephen Colbert and The Late Show, a show that has a history going all the way back to Ed Sullivan, coming to an end, and as far as we know, not being replaced. At 6:46, let's get to the headlines. Here's Lisa.
Conservation officers investigating after social media videos appear to show two men hand-feeding grizzly bears over the long weekend. This happened up in Smithers. In one video, a man is seen feeding a bear a carrot from a vehicle. Another shows a man outside a vehicle trying to feed a bear an apple. Darwinian. Those incidents are believed to have taken place in the Hudson Bay Road area of Smithers. Officers say the behavior puts both people and the bears at risk because it has them way too human familiarized. Officers say penalties for feeding, attempting to feed, and attracting dangerous wildlife can range up to $100,000 and or jail time. But of course, the actual penalties are usually much less than that. North Shore Rescue warning hikers to better prepare for snowy conditions in the mountains. This after 5 separate rescues over the Victoria Day long weekend. The group says 4 of the rescues located off Brunswick Trail near Lions Bay, as well as Garibaldi Lake and Seymour and Cypress Mountains, required helicopter evacuations for people trapped in the backcountry. A 5th rescue took place when a hiker dislocated their shoulder. That was in the Seymour backcountry and was lucky enough to run into a rescuer who then helped them hike out without receiving treatment at the time. North Shore Rescue said there may be significant snow at higher elevations still, despite the warm and sunny weather at sea level, and hikers should be mindful when they're taking to the mountains of this. Still in the mountains, a man living in Revelstoke has died after falling into a crevasse at a glacier at Jasper National Park. RCMP say police were called to the Columbia Icefield May 12th. They say the victim was identified as a 38-year-old man from the Czech Republic who was living in BC. They say he was snowboarding with friends at the time, and there's no immediate possibility to recover his body due to the remote location and harsh environment involved. That is your news to 6:48.
Well, this is kind of fun. So there's a local woman from here in Victoria that would like all of us, everybody here listening, to sing "O Canada" at the same time on Canada Day.
Nice.
From coast to coast.
It's a good idea.
Get everybody in unison, all, 40 million of us or whatever there is now.
Might hear your neighbor belting it out.
It's an initiative called All Together Canada, and they did this last year. So we've got Catherine Casey, she's the Victoria woman behind this effort. How did it go last year, and what are they hoping for this year? We're going to talk about it next.
From CFAX 1070.
Here's what's happening around the island.
Join Capital Bike for Spring Go By Bike Week, May 30th to June 5th. Register and find celebration stations at gobybikebc.ca. Sign up for the Walk for Alzheimer's Sunday, May 31st at Fisherman's Wharf. More info at walkforalzheimers.ca.
Get more event info at CFAX1070.com.
If it's happening, it's here.
CFAX 1070.
CFAX 1070 traffic and weather. By the way, the whole morning show brought to you by Thrifty Foods. At Thrifty Foods, Happy is filling the garden with local flowers, herbs, and soils. Get growing with super savings at Thrifty Foods. BC Grown Garden Sale. It's on now. So for the roads, things are starting to pick up from the West Shore, but it's pretty typical volume delays, nothing unusual. No crashes or accidents. If you do see something, text me at 71010. We've got at BC Ferries no sailing waits. Everything's fine there. And in the weather, it's also nothing to see here. It's just some sunshine, highs at 21 degrees. It's a very calm start to this Thursday.
The best way to start an island morning. Ryan and Lisa on CFAX 1070.
Well, if my next guest has her way, all of us will all be singing "O Canada" together in unison from coast to coast all across the country on Canada Day. It's something called All Together Canada. Why does Catherine Casey from right here in Victoria want us all to do this? She's joining us now to talk about that. Hello, how are you?
Good morning, Ryan. Thank you. How are you?
Great to talk to you about this. And some folks might remember this because you did this last year as well, didn't you?
I certainly did.
How'd that go?
It went very well. So it was our inaugural year, and we reached about 8 million Canadians. And then when I looked on my social media posts, I had about 130,000 clicks and responses and hundreds of videos and pictures of people singing "O Canada" across the country all at the same time.
When you say you reached 8 million people, does that mean 8 million were singing?
Well, I wish I could actually give you a number. It's hard. Yeah. So through all the media channels, which CFAX Radio was one of them, thank you so much for last year, I was able to reach about 8 million. So we were on CTV News, I was in the Globe and Mail, multiple media channels. And so that's the rough estimate. But again, it's getting people to post and show that they actually did it. So I heard stories of thousands of people who were involved. But again, I just can't give you a specific number, but it was very heartening to hear that people picked it up, loved it, and told stories back to me of how much they enjoyed doing it.
And you're trying to do it again. So this Canada Day, right? You want people to sing. And how does it work? I mean, is it just as simple as sing, or I guess you got to do it at a certain time to be all doing it together? How do you coordinate this?
Oh, so that's the tricky part. So, of course, Canada Day is over a month away, and people aren't really thinking about it until we hit June. So getting the word out early is a bit like people just don't want to get into it. So anyway, so getting it there, and then you can sing anywhere, but you do need to sing at a certain time. So in British Columbia, it's 10 a.m., and then we go all the way till 2:30 p.m. Newfoundland time. So it just has everybody going at the same time that way. And you can do it anywhere. You can do it in your home. You can do it on the street with a bunch of your neighbors. We had people who were singing it at the top of mountains last year. So it's just make it as easy as you possibly can, but please do sing at your appointed time in your province.
And again, for BC, our appointed time is
10 a.m.
10 a.m. on Canada Day. Get out there and sing. And I guess, wouldn't it be cool if you went out to the sing and you kind of listened and you could hear other people elsewhere start up at the same time? I guess that would be one of the magical moments to try to hope for.
Ryan, that is my vision. Yeah. I love it when we're at Canada games and everybody starts singing. Like, doesn't that just give you the biggest goose pimples? And if we heard that across Canada, imagine if the world heard us because Canadians sing and they're amazing. I just think that would be such a powerful moment.
Catherine, you want us all live streaming, I'm guessing, right? Is that possible?
No, it is basically I'm asking people to do videos of themselves and then to post afterwards. But no, I don't have a live stream. I wish, but I'm not that powerful yet.
Well, we can certainly live stream on Facebook. That's easy enough. Or on different social media.
Certainly. Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you.
Now, why did you come up with this? Because you did it last year for the first one, hoping everybody will sing "Oh Canada" in unison, synchronized across Canada again this Canada Day. What started all of this for you? Why did you do this?
Absolutely. My husband and I, we were out for a walk and we were just talking about how the state of the world was really hard on Canadians. We had our forest fires, we had tariffs, and I was just thinking about hockey games and how much I love when we sing the anthem. And I looked at my husband and I said, wouldn't that be cool if we did that all across Canada? And he's like, did you just come up with that? I'm like, yeah, what do you think? He's like, go for it. And so this year, I was hoping that maybe we wouldn't need it as much considering the state of the world. But things continue to be quite challenging. And if there's anything, I'm like, I think we need it even more this year because it shows Canadian resilience, our community, our sense of connectedness. That's what we should be doing. And I think it's a great time to be doing it. Yeah.
And for clarification, you're just, I don't mean to I don't know. I'm gonna put it this way: you're just a woman here in Victoria. Like this is all this is. You just had this idea. This isn't coming from anywhere. This isn't some company or organization trying to do this. You're just you, and you're like, wouldn't this be cool? And you're just doing it. That's what you're doing, right?
That is exactly it, Ryan. I'm not politically motivated or anything. This is a grassroots movement. I just think it's a really cool idea, and I'm trying to tell as many people and reach as many people as I can because I think people want to do it. I think they do once they hear the idea. They're keen. They're excited. They raise their voices. It's awesome.
All Together Canada, they're trying it again this year. How many Canadians can we all get singing the national anthem coast to coast at the exact same time? Canada Day still a little ways away, so you got some time to think about it. And if people do want to think about it, final messaging here, what do people need to know? How can they do it properly other than just, start singing "Oh Canada," 10 o'clock on Canada Day?
Thank you, Ryan. My website is alltogethercanada.ca. That's all with 2 L's in it. And it has all the information. It even has a cute 3-minute documentary featuring my mom. And if you want to see the cutest woman ever, that's the place to go. And that's where you can sign up. So alltogethercanada.ca.
I love it. Well, good luck. Maybe we can touch base closer to and see either how it's going or how it went. I'd love to hear how many Canadians do it. And I think if nothing else, at 10 o'clock on Canada Day, I'll give a listen out the window and see, is anybody else singing?
Oh, Ryan, thank you. And thank you, Lisa, for getting me out there and for helping spread the word.
Good luck. This is cool.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Right. Yeah, I love it. That's just kind of fun. I also just love that she just decided to do this. There's no other reason for it. Just like, I'm a person and I think I would like to get the entire country singing. And here I go. Let's see if I can do it. That's kind of fun. That's kind of inspiring. We'll take a quick break. We got the 7 o'clock news next. Lisa's coming up. Also, at some point this morning, we will be playing a song by the rock band The Black Keys. And if you hear that, text the word rock to 71010. Why? Because it's the CFAX Summer of Rock, and we're giving away tickets to concerts like The Black Keys with accommodation at the Rosedale and Robson Street Hotel, with flights from Helijet. All of that if you're the lucky winner. But to be entered to win, you got to text rock when you hear a Black Keys song. That's this week's artist, and it's all powered by the Sax Point Pub in Esquimalt.
CFAX Victoria.
An iHeart radio station. If it's happening,
It's here.
CFAX 1070.
Good morning. It is 7 o'clock on Thursday, May 21st. Just a sunny day with a few clouds awaiting you. Right now, it's 8 degrees. We'll get to a full forecast in just a moment. But right now, the news begins, and here is Lisa Best.
Good morning. Iran has released what it's calling the Hormuz-controlled maritime zone, outlining the boundaries of the Strait of Hormuz. And it says the newly created Persian Gulf Strait Authority will manage the very narrow waterway, about 20 miles wide near Iran's coastline. ABC foreign correspondent Tom Sufi Barrage explains why the U.S. say they're in control.
Iran has the ability to threaten ships, and that is why there are hundreds of ships stuck in the Persian Gulf to the west of there and can't get out. The U.S. military blockade is a significant distance to the east, beyond the Gulf of Oman, basically where that goes into the Arabian Sea. That is where the U.S. military has multiple ships stationed and is not letting any ships which are going to or from Iranian ports or having Iranian-linked goods on them to transit through those waters. So it's a U.S. blockade on the Iranian blockade.
Well, Strait probably has nothing to do with this, but a bit of good news at the gas pumps locally. The price for a litre regular now sitting around $2.10 in Greater Victoria. It hovers depending on the gas station, but it has dropped a few cents. Here's gas price expert Dan McTagg.
The world's missing 1.6 billion barrels of oil. What does that mean? That's the equivalent of not anyone using any form of oil for a full 16 days anywhere in the world. So it's very serious, and it means that gas prices could go up not as much.
McTagg says the 2-cent drop overnight, prices may drop again from that, but we're also hearing that prices could climb again slightly by next week, so the yo-yo continues. Prime Minister Mark Carney and BC Premier David Eby have agreed to negotiate the province's economic priorities and Ottawa's role in major national developments. The talks may ease tensions over energy infrastructure after David Eby criticized the federal focus on Alberta's pipeline proposals. Carney told the Greater Vancouver Board of Trade, that is, yesterday, that any future pipeline will require the Pathways carbon capture project, substantial benefits for BC, and also mandatory First Nation consultation.
One of the benefits of actually sitting down and talking about these things, as opposed to litigating about these things across the federal government and provinces, is that it develops a shared understanding, a recognition of what needs to be done, an understanding of why this is the right thing to do, a commitment that goes beyond what's written on the page.
The negotiations are expected to influence how Ottawa balances resource development, Indigenous partnerships, and regional priorities as Canada advances large-scale investment projects. The Supreme Court of Canada has announced it will hear BC's appeal of a ruling that found the UN Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People, or DRIP Act, and the province's mineral claims regime are inconsistent. The BC Court of Appeal ruled in December that the provincial DRIP Act should be properly interpreted to incorporate UNDRIP into the laws of BC with immediate legal effect. At the time, a statement from one of the two nations challenging the law called the decision precedent setting. The government says the act establishes the UN Declaration as BC's framework for reconciliation. Gig workers driving passengers to and from World Cup festivities in Vancouver and Toronto are bracing for a lot of traffic congestion and tension coming with the tournament. They foresee unruly, impatient, alcohol-fueled crowds clogging the streets, and that'll constrain how many customers they can actually serve. Christine Hubbard is the managing director of Beck Taxi in Toronto. She says drivers and passengers will have to pack their patience.
I often liken it to a snowstorm. If you can't get around, neither can a taxi. We're not operating hovercrafts or small planes that can get you above the traffic. And so if traffic is at a standstill, as are we.
Hovercraft's a good idea, though. Uber says it's advising customers in Vancouver and Toronto to plan ahead because those wait times and fares will likely be on the higher end as well. And the Trump administration has unsealed charges of murder and conspiracy against Cuba's former president Raul Castro, the brother of longtime dictator Fidel Castro, a form of pressure on the communist regime to change its leadership.
For many Cuban Americans, especially here in Miami, these charges were 30 years in the making. Today, Cuba's government calling the indictment a farce based on lies to justify military aggression. And Cuban officials say any military move will be met with fierce resistance. The critical question now is what happens next.
The charges involved the 1996 shoot-down of 2 humanitarian planes by Cuban big fighter jets, killed among them 3 Americans. And that's your news to 7:05. Your CFAX 1070 news poll question: is it worth $1 billion investment to host 13 World Cup games in Vancouver and Toronto starting next month? Now, over 90% are saying no right now on our website, or about 100% saying no on Twitter X. You can vote at CFAX1070.com. Also, the iHeartRadio app. And Lisa, best your news time is 7:07.
Thank you, Lisa, and good morning. It's going to be a mostly sunny day. Highs eventually hitting 21 degrees. Right now, the official temperature at the Victoria International Airport has risen to 11. We'll get to the full forecast in just a moment, but right now over to the sports. The Montreal Victoire brought home the team's first Walter Cup last night after a 4-1 win over the Ottawa Charge in game number 4. That means it's the first time a Canadian team has won the Professional Women's Hockey League title, with the Minnesota Frost doing it the first couple of times for this young league. In the NHL, Montreal Canadiens visit the Carolina Hurricanes tonight. It's game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final. Montreal coming off a 7-game series win over Buffalo, which ended with that 3-2 overtime road win back on Monday. And then on the other side, Carolina hasn't played since May 9th after back-to-back sweeps of Ottawa and Philadelphia. And over to the Vegas Golden Knights last night. They landed the first blow in the Western Conference Final last night, beating Colorado 4-2. And in the BCHL playoffs, the final round continues, although it's starting to look a little shaky for the Nanaimo Clippers, who are in tough against the Brooks Bandits. Last night's game was in Nanaimo. The Bandits win 2-1 in overtime, and they are now up in the series 3-1, with the series shifting back to Brooks, Alberta for Game 5 on Friday, so tomorrow. Toronto Blue Jays in New York to take on the Yankees for the finale of a 4-game series. Toronto won yesterday, 2-1. Seattle Mariners defeating the Chicago White Sox 5-4. And in basketball, the Western Conference Finals are all knotted up now. Canadian Shai Gilgeous-Alexander bounced back from a subpar series opener to score 30 points as the Oklahoma City Thunder beat the San Antonio Spurs 122-113. And that's your sports to 7:09. CFAX 1070 traffic and weather at 7:10, and I got a text message here at 7:10. Good morning. Ryan and Lisa, says the texter. Can we do a call out to gas stations and the prices, please, and reward those stations that have lower prices while at the same time encouraging those other stations to lower your prices, says the texter. Well, hey, that's a good point. So here's a sense of what things are like out there. The Petro-Canada on Millstream in Langford has 209.9. It's one of the cheaper ones. The Esso on Jacqueline in Langford, 209.92. A couple of the cheaper stations out there. So there you go. As per the texter's request, a couple cents cheaper there. For the rest of the commute, no crashes or accidents. Here's a sense of how the West Shore commute is looking. If you're going from around about the kind of Millstream and the Trans-Canada Highway area, that's about the Costco area of Langford. If you're going from there into downtown Victoria, it's taking you about 30 minutes, which is actually better than sometimes. So I'd say maybe a little lighter than usual on the West Shore commute. For BC Ferries, no sailing waits. For the weather, it is a mainly sunny day in store. Highs eventually to hit 21 degrees. The official temperature right now is 11, but it's, of course, a little varied depending on where you are. It's at 9 right now in Langford, for instance, and at the Oak Bay waterfront, it's 11. For the rest of the forecast tonight, a few clouds maybe, but mostly clear with lows down to 11. Tomorrow, mostly sunny. Highs of 21. Saturday, mostly sunny. Highs of 20. And then for Sunday, that's where the clouds roll in, and we will maybe get into some rain later into the day. At least the forecast right now is suggesting it'll hold off until later into Sunday when the rain comes down, and that could last into Monday as well. Again, in the long-range forecast, we'll see how that adjusts as we get closer to the weekend. Getting a look at the markets now. S&P TSX in Toronto starting the day down just by 15 points to 34,146. In New York, the Dow Jones Industrials, they closed yesterday above 50,000 points again, but they've slipped back down again today, down 28 points to 49,980. The Canadian dollar at 72.5 cents US.
Let's get started. Start your day informed and entertained. Ryan and Lisa, mornings on CFAX 1070.
Well, I want to talk about bees for a second. Lisa, did you see any of this on social media? Yesterday,
yes,
there was a giant swarm of bees on Blanchard downtown.
Well, it makes sense because yesterday was National Bee Day.
That must have been what it was.
Right, they knew.
They just knew it was the day. This is kind of, near about Fort Street, I think, on Blanchard, kind of that area. For a little while yesterday, this giant swarm of bees emerged.
So they're looking for a home or making a bee movie.
Yeah, I see what you said.
Yeah.
I saw this once. No, I wasn't downtown yesterday, so I did not see this in person.
Oh, you've been surrounded by a swarm?
But I've seen it before.
Good for you. That's good luck.
So I know exactly what this would have been like. My wife kept bees for a couple of years.
Oh, nice.
In our yard, which was really cool, actually. It was a neat experience, except one day she's out at work, and I'm home alone. It's about, late morning. And I remember I was getting out of the shower, and in my house, if I open up my bathroom door, there's a hallway, and at the end of the hallway is the kitchen, and at the end of that is a window out into the yard.
Okay.
So I open up the bathroom door, I look straight down the hall, out what is usually my window, into
which is a window,
trees and stuff outside, except I'm looking, and it's, I don't know what I'm seeing. Like, everything's moving out there. Like, I'm not seeing just like some still trees and sky.
Thunder or a black storm, sort of. Yeah.
And I just don't get it. And I'm like, what am I? And I'm shaking my head. Like, is there water in my eyes still? What am I seeing here? And I walk forward, and then it dawns on me. This is a swarm of bees.
Wow.
This is our bees that usually fit into this tiny little box.
Well, they do fit, but then they don't fit.
No, they took up like this huge space.
Because they have to separate.
Yeah,
when the new queen takes flight and decides to pack her bags and move out, she takes everyone with her.
Yeah, and they sure did. And it sounded like a jet engine filled an entire backyard. Just the sight of them swarming.
That's a lot of bees.
It was crazy. And
Did you go out in the middle of them?
Well, no. I called my wife and was like, "You might want to come home. Your bees are swarming."
That's fun. So I mean, it's kind of scary at first because you don't know what's going on. When bees are swarming, they actually won't attack because they've got nothing really to protect.
They're just following the queen. The queen has decided the bolt, and they're going with her.
That's right. She's looking for a new house, where to put the new sofa, that kind of stuff, shopping for furniture. So while she does that, they just swarm and protect her. But they're not stingy, or they're not trying to protect anything. I mean, bees don't do a lot of that anyway, so because they have a different job to do. So while they look for that new home, they're not focused on you getting in the way or anything. So they will swarm around you, and you will not get stung. And it is the wildest experience, because I've had it happen too, where suddenly I am in the middle of bees everywhere. And your first thought is panic or run, but you don't need to. You just have to stay still. And they won't sting you because they're looking for their new place to live because they've outgrown the hive. There's too many of them in that particular hive. Now, you'll see them sometimes up in trees or on the sides of trees, this black mass, as you saw, which looked like a storm. And it is the wildest thing to see.
And that's what some folks saw in downtown Victoria yesterday around Blanchard and Fort when suddenly one of these happened and a lot of confused people going, what is this? Well,
right.
Yeah, there you go. That's a great explanation, Lisa, of what they're doing. And it is a wild thing to see.
Yeah, and you're okay with it. And they think wasps, that's another topic.
The wasps are jerks. I hold that opinion, and I have yet to be convinced otherwise.
I think there's a lot of people that agree with you on that one.
7:16, what's happening in the news?
Talking about that $1 billion price tag for FIFA, a new Leger survey shows the taxpayer burden remains the top concern for most Canadians heading into next month's 13 World Cup games split between Vancouver and Toronto. Even as a majority of Canadians support being a host to the games, the headline numbers reviewed questions of whether the cost is actually going to be worth it for us. Health officials here in this country in the U.S. have now commented on an Air France flight bound for Detroit that was diverted to Montreal. The airline says a passenger was denied entry into the U.S. as a new regulation states that travelers from certain countries, including the Congo, can only enter the country through Washington, D.C. Congo and its neighbor Uganda, of course, have been battling an outbreak of a very rare strain of Ebola, which has suspected of sickened 600 and killed at least 139. And Canadian aid workers are en route to the Democratic Republic of Congo, where they hope to offer help for the ongoing outbreak. Halifax-based Chiran Livra with the Canadian Red Cross says he hopes to arrive in the next few days with a team of public health experts and logistic experts, too, already on their way. Their work will involve contact tracing, psychological support, and helping people get to treatment centers. And that is your headline news to 717.
We're going to check in with the community of Souk next. Mayor Maya Tate joining us on the line. Souk Council recently received a report looking at emergency management vulnerabilities after the province made new emergency management requirements. So what do they need to do in the face of this? What do they need to do in the face of problems like only having the one highway in and out of the community? If something happens to that in an emergency, what do you do? Those are the kind of conversations happening in Souk, and we're going to have them next with the mayor. CFAX 1070 traffic and weather. Watch out for paving work again on Cook Street on either side of Finlayson and some obstructions on Finlayson as you approach Cook Street. That is going to be the case for the next week or so. And for the rest of the commute, it's looking pretty typical, even maybe lighter than usual. I'm hazarding a guess at this from the West Shore into downtown Victoria. I was looking at the sort of Millstream / Trans-Canada Highway, Costco area of Langford into downtown Victoria, taking about 35 minutes right now, which seems to be lighter than usual. I don't know if it'll stay that way, but right now it seems like it's flowing pretty well. And for the BC ferries, no sailing waits. For the weather, mainly sunny, highs of 21 degrees. A little cooler by the water is what we can expect out of the day. Right now it's 11.
It's all here. News, weather, traffic, and community events. Ryan and Lisa, mornings on CFAX 1070.
The mayor of Souk is joining us, Maya Tate. Hello, how are you?
Very good. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Great to get you here. We're just speaking about traffic. Well, one of the things always on the minds of people in Souk is Highway 14, Souk Road. Your one road in and out of the community. And that has been flagged in a new report you're looking at, in an emergency management report that I guess municipalities are doing everywhere, and looking into vulnerabilities and, you know, what kind of risks do communities face in the case of an emergency. And I guess for you, what's up with Souk Road?
Highway 14 always comes to mind just because of our reliance on it and the one way in, one way out for all of us. It also, as everyone knows, it wasn't new news that a single closure has a cascading impact, and it creates a whole number of other challenges to us whenever there's a closure of Highway 14.
Right. And so let's back up a bit here. So what is this report, and what do you need to do with it?
Okay, well, the province has the Emergency Disaster Management Act. And from this, there's a legislated requirement that all local governments develop a climate adaptation natural hazard risk assessment. And this is a foundational document which all emergency management plans, initiatives, and projects would be based upon. So it brings everything that we've been doing from emergency planning and asset management together. And we received just an update on that particular plan, a check-in point from the consultant where they highlighted all of, just what's going on in Souk and just to see if anything was missing. And so from this, it talks about Highway 14 and just the impact should there be a closure.
Right. So this report comes back, sort of tells you what you already know. When there's something could sever this road, and then we're kind of cut off from everything. So given that, is there anything you can do about it? Because there's challenges. Namely, you don't actually, as the municipality, control this road. It's a provincial highway.
No, that is true. It's not our road. However, we do work closely with our MLA and the province just around where are the challenges with the road itself. Within Souk, we have our own asset management plan that we're always looking at. Infrastructure problems. So even if a road had developed a sinkhole, we all know that happened with Charters Road. What do we do about it to mitigate the impact? The province has also done extensive work, and our advocacy isn't alone. It's recognized by partners like BC Hydro. So as everyone that's been commuting knows, there's times in the early spring where there's slowdowns with hydro doing advanced tree work, just as precautionary steps along the way. We also know that when we've received warnings of severe windstorms, hydro was already deployed in our community, so they were here and could respond quickly should events happen. That all aside, weather and climate impacts aside, we still run into the concerns of accidents, and that's where we've been locally bolstering and expanding our own emergency response through police and fire response.
Now, what about one day, maybe, solving this problem by having a second road?
Well, it depends if you have a second bridge. Because right now we have the 4 lanes to 2 to 1 bridge. So you could put a second road to get us to Souk, but it depends on where that road comes to, because if it's all on the say, Victoria side of the Souk River, we still have 1 bridge getting across the river.
And then I guess bridges get expensive.
Well, they do. And one bridge, as folks may recall, back to 2006, the infamous sneezing incident, which led to a closure of, I think it was about 9 hours.
I remember that.
Bridge reopened.
I was working on the CFAX news desk back in 2006 when that happened. I remember the pictures of this truck, right? It was like jammed up against the bridge, and there were worries about structure of the bridge and how it was affected. Yeah, that was quite the day.
Yes, it was. I recall being able to walk across it when it briefly opened to allow the secondary school students to return home. So thankfully got across, but much of Souk did not. And that was 2006. So consider our population growth since then.
Maya, it must be extremely frustrating for you because I'd almost want to go back at least 50 to 70 years and give municipal, federal, and provincial officials a shake to say, can we get on this? Can we have a secondary route? We have issues that could, rear up like wildfires, I'm thinking. And the Malahat's in the same boat. Here on the island, our exits are limited.
They are, and it's something we know, and we continue to grow. We continue to advocate, but you need patience of like a glacier, almost. Maybe that's not the right analogy, but
it's the speed anyway.
Yeah, exactly. It's the speed, but you need volumes of it because it's a challenge. Like we're building up our asset management on what we can do, but this is still not our highway. We're a stakeholder.
Yeah. Now, just got about a minute left. Souk has received this report, which I guess municipalities everywhere are needing to do, looking into emergency management vulnerabilities. And lo and behold, the fact that there's that one road in and out to the rest of the Greater Victoria area is a bit of an issue. So that aside, final thoughts on this report and what Souk will be doing, any recommendations you need to follow, or what's the next step here?
So much of it highlights that what we're doing is we're on the right track. So our CMP is awesome in terms of responding to get the road to do their analysis whenever it happens. The roads are open sooner than they were, say, 15 years ago. We used to deal with closures of up to 9 hours waiting for a traffic analysis to occur. Our fire response is 24/7, and it is also awesome. So they're the first to arrive on the scene. And then having an asset management policy, the funding to do everything we can within our control is also ongoing. So it never stops. It's continuous. And I'm mentioning that because that predominantly is where the bulk of property taxes is going this year, is into infrastructure, asset management, emergency response. And so in many ways, I know that there's an election coming, but these are just things that need to happen in a community like Souk. You cannot abandon them, and they need to continue. And of course, always the advocacy and having that strong relationship with the province and other partners like BC Hydro.
Mayor Maya Tate, always appreciate it. Thank you for spending some of your morning with us here.
Well, happy to be here. I wish you all a great day, safe travels, and thank you for your time with me.
No worries. We'll take a break, though. We got 7:30 News with Lisa next.
Developing political story, a big doozy.
Vashi Capellos.
What started as a dull day is anything but.
The top newsmakers.
Your go-to political debrief. Daily. What is really going on?
The breaking news.
Just moments ago. And the entertaining analysis and debate to follow.
I don't think you can sugarcoat it. It's an issue.
It's not true, guys. Yeah. Vashi Capellos. There is a greater plan here.
Vashi Capellos. Weekdays, 9 a.m. to 11.
Bigger picture politically, which is
on CFAX 1070. CFAX Victoria.
An iHeart radio station. If it's happening,
It's here.
CFAX 1070.
Good morning. It's 7:30 on Thursday, May 21st. You can expect a sunny day with temperatures eventually hitting 21 degrees. Also remember, the CFAX Summer of Rock powered by the Sax Point Pub in Esquimalt continues. And when you hear a song by the Black Keys, text the word rock to 71010 to be entered to win a trip to see the Black Keys.
Yes.
It's coming at some point. Just
soon.
Soonish. That's my
Keep listening.
Sneak peek trick. Anyways, it's news time, isn't it? What's going on, Lisa?
Let's do that. The years-long question of whether Canada co-hosting next month's FIFA World Cup is worth that price tag is in a very harsh spotlight after we learned yesterday it's going to be $1 billion for those 12 games between Vancouver and Toronto. $82 million apiece is what it works out to. CTV's Andrew Johnson has some latest reaction.
We're not getting any of the major elimination matches. We thought that if we were hosting the World Cup, we would actually see something of consequence.
The host cities are counting on a big benefit. BC's premier says the tournament will bring 1 million visitors to Vancouver over the next 5 years. The mayor has led the charge.
This is an amazing opportunity. It's going to be a month-long commercial.
The latest polling from Leger showed close to 3/4 of Canadians support hosting World Cup matches, but a majority indicated their biggest concern is taxpayer costs.
Yeah, that's how we all feel. The FIFA World Cup games on the minds of MLAs. Good portion of the question period yesterday dealt with ticket-related issues, including the Premier attending at least 2 matches. House Leader Mark Farnworth says it's important that David Eby be there.
I'll just remind members of the House that this province is hosting an international event. The Prime Minister will be here, the Governor-General will be here, the Lieutenant Governor will be here, and it is entirely appropriate that the Premier of the province of British Columbia is in attendance at events where those leaders are present, including leaders from around the world.
Farnworth says the ticket policy announced last year remains in place, as a maximum of 2 government ministers are permitted to attend per game, and each can only bring 1 staff member. Family members are barred from attending on government-allotted tickets. That's fair. With air passengers facing more expensive tickets and the risk of canceled flights, insurance experts are advising those with summer travel plans to stay on their toes. Carriers are continuing to cope with sky-high jet fuel costs, prompting some insurers to classify the situation as a known event on your insurance. So that excludes any related travel disruptions from coverage. Martin Firestone of Travel Secure says that makes it harder for you as a passenger to protect yourself if your plans are derailed.
You can see even our Canadian airlines have consolidated some flights. We know they've added fuel surcharges. Like, it's happening. It's just a question of how bad it will be and how bad it will affect people's vacations.
Of course, the jet fuel crisis is an offshoot of Iran's ongoing closure of the Strait of Hormuz due to the U.S.-Israel launch of a war. And that has led, of course, to our soaring oil prices, even though the price of the pumps here in Great Victoria are down a few cents today. So you might want to fill up while you can while it's a little bit cheaper. In Vancouver yesterday, Premier David Eby playing nice with the Prime Minister a day after accusing Mark Carney of making the agenda of separatist premiers his priority. CTV's Michael Couture has details.
The Prime Minister is a friend to British Columbia.
Carney pointed out 1/3 of the projects identified as in the national interest are in BC. He also told the Vancouver Board of Trade he's looking for partners, not pushback.
We don't want to hear what people are against. We want to hear what they're for. And if you're for something, we will get behind it.
On Wednesday, Carney vowed that plans to carry a pipeline of oil from Alberta to the BC coast will only happen under certain conditions, including the consultation of First Nations. Are your kids having a lot of screen time, maybe no screen time? Well, that's the new guidance from experts.
Live real life. That's the motto of a new Surgeon General report on the dangers of too much screen time for kids. The report, calling it an urgent public health issue, found some kids are now spending more time on devices than they do sleeping or attending school. Experts warning even some toddlers are now spending multiple hours a day in front of a screen, setting up potential mental health issues and poor developmental and educational outcomes.
That is your news to 7:35. Your CFAX 1070 news poll question this morning, we're asking, is it worth $1 billion investment to host 13 World Cup games between Vancouver and Toronto this summer? 90% saying no. You can vote at CFAX1070.com. Also on the iHeartRadio app. I'm Lisa Best, your news time, 7:36.
Thank you, Lisa. We are looking at a day that's going to be a little on the sunny side with a high of 21 degrees expected. Right now, we're sitting at 11 in downtown Victoria. Oh, what's this? What's happening?
I like it.
Well, that sure sounds like a song by a certain artist that might be a cue for you to text the word rock to 71010. Just saying.
Well, this is Black Keys. But don't text that. Text the word rock to be entered to see the Black Keys.
They're performing later this month in Vancouver. We want to send you with tickets to the show, with Helijet flights, with accommodations from the Rosedale and Robson Street Hotel. It's all powered by the Sax Point Pub in Esquimalt. It's the CFAX Summer of Rock. Give us a text. Over to the CFAX 1070 Sports now. Let's take a look at what happened in the BCHL playoffs final round between the Nanaimo Clippers and the Brooks Bandits of Alberta. Well, it's looking like Nanaimo's in a bit of a hole. Brooks won last night in Nanaimo, 2-1 in overtime. That means they now lead the Clippers in the best-of-7 series 3-1, and it's shifting back to Brooks, Alberta for Game 5 tomorrow. So if they win that one, the Bandits win the whole thing, and it would become their second straight championship. So they're the defending champs. They want to clinch this thing at home tomorrow. Can Nanaimo stay alive? We'll have to wait and see. Montreal Canadiens in the NHL visiting the Carolina Hurricanes tonight. It's Game 1 of the NHL's Eastern Conference Final. Last night, the Vegas Golden Knights opened up the NHL's Western Conference Final with a win, defeating Colorado 4-2. The Montreal Victoire brought home the team's first Walter Cup last night. 4-0 win over the Ottawa Charge in Game 4. It's also the first time a Canadian team has won the Professional Women's Hockey League title. Blue Jays are going to be in New York for the fourth game against the Yankees in this series. Toronto won yesterday 2-1. They lost the opening two games, so we'll see what happens today with this final game against the Yankees in this set. Seattle Mariners defeating the Chicago White Sox 5-4 yesterday as well. And the MVP looking like the MVP again. The Western Conference Finals are all knotted up with the Canadian Shai Gilgeous-Alexander bouncing back from a subpar series opener to score 30 points as the Oklahoma City Thunder beat the San Antonio Spurs 122-113. That's your Sports 2 739. CFAX Morning Show brought to you by Coastal Heat Pumps. For a comfortable home no matter the season, big savings on your heating bill. Talk to Coastal Heat Pumps, the South Island's Elite Plus Fujitsu Air Stage dealer. Let's take a look at the traffic. We are on the roads, not seeing any crashes or accidents at this time. We got paving work back on Cook Street, either side of Finlayson, and also Finlayson approaching Cook Street, kind of eastbound, is affected, sometimes even closed over the course of the day as that paving work continues. No sailing rates at BC Ferries right now. 8 o'clock is next. There's still room there for vehicles. For the weather, This sort of nice stable patch of weather we've been into since yesterday continues with mostly just sunny skies, highs around about 20 degrees, which was the story yesterday. It's the story tomorrow. It's the story Saturday. It's Sunday that changes. That's where some clouds roll in. And by the end of the day right now, at least on the forecast, it's looking like rain could be with us near to the end of Sunday. Monday is wet as well in the long-range forecast. Temperature-wise, around the region, in Saanich by Swan Lake, 12 degrees. In Langford right now, it is 10 degrees. On the markets, S&P TSX up 71 points as things adjust. 34,233 is the overall number. The Dow is down 43 to 49,966. NASDAQ is down 187 to 26,082, and the Canadian dollar at 72.5 cents U.S.
Don't attempt your morning commute without us. Ryan and Lisa, mornings on CFAX 1070.
We love it when you join the conversation at 71010. And this texter here says, not sure if you can mention this, but congratulations to Power to Be. The texter says they emceed last night's 100-plus Women Who Care meeting. Oh. What an inspiring example of community generosity and collective impact. A huge thank you to the incredible members of the 100-plus Women Who Care, Victoria, for their ongoing fundraising efforts and commitment to supporting local organizations making real differences in people's lives. Last night, we shined a well-deserved spotlight on the important work of Luther Court Society, the 1,000 times 5 Children's Book Recycling Project, and Power to Be. And that's from listener Kathleen, just giving out a big shout out there to an event last night. And yeah, that sounds great. Worth shouting out.
Yeah, and a great, any kind of fundraising we could do, and that one sounds quite unique. Why not?
Yeah, excellent. Well, there you go. Much appreciated. And anytime you want to join the conversation, text us at 71010. Like you might have just done when we played that Black Keys song a few moments ago.
We had a lot of people texting rock, and so you were entered.
ROCK, rock. A couple of text messages came in as Rick.
Okay, no, don't do that.
So if you texted us Rick, rock, ROCK,
correct,
is the number. Uh-huh. We have been doing what I'm hoping will be a series of conversations on drugs like Ozempic, these GLP drugs that are for originally
diabetes,
mm-hmm. Now are all the craze for weight loss. And in Canada, of course, we now have the generic ones coming online. And we've been reaching out to different folks to talk about the fact that these things are out there. What does it mean for society? What does it mean for health? What does it mean for weight loss? All of these things. We have the next edition of those conversations coming up in just a few moments as we talk to an associate professor of counseling psychology at UVic. Her focus is on studying weight loss related issues. Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk about the arrival of these GLP-1s and how they've changed things. So we're going to get into that next. So stand by, but that's right after Lisa tells us about the news headlines.
Alaska's governor ordering the state legislature to look at advancing a natural gas line deemed a top priority for the state, which is a similar project in BC facing legal opposition. Mike Dunleavy has declared the liquefied natural gas line a top priority in his final months in office. Some legislators have expressed concerns about the lack of key financial details. That's kind of important. The development comes as BC Supreme Court is set to weigh in on the petitions filed by First Nations hereditary chief on the province's decision to approve a 900-kilometer LNG pipeline feeding a facility near the Alaskan border. Tonight's the final episode of The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. It's also the final episode of CBS late night shows altogether, which have been on air since David Letterman began hosting back in 1993. Colbert's 11-year run comes to an end for what CBS owner Paramount says was a purely financial decision unrelated to Colbert's frequent criticisms of the U.S. President Donald Trump. And a new study shows women recovering from breast cancer surgery may experience less pain if they raise their vitamin D levels. The BMJ group did research showing people who show vitamin D deficiency would benefit from these supplements before undergoing a mastectomy. The study included 184 women with breast cancer who are preparing for surgery and what appears to be a connection with vitamin D and how the body regulates pain. This is published in the journal Regional Anesthesia and Pain Medicine. And that is your headline news to 746.
All right, we'll get into this conversation about Ozempic products, and we continue to just sort of track what it means for society. And my next guest is thinking about that from the University of Victoria. We'll be into that right after traffic and weather. If you see a crash out there, text us at 71010.
From CFAX 1070.
Here's what's happening around the island.
Join Capital Bike for Spring Go By Bike Week, May 30th to June 5th. Register and find celebration stations at gobybikebc.ca. Sign up for the Walk for Alzheimer's Sunday, May 31st at Fisherman's Wharf. More info at walkforalzheimers.ca.
Get more event info at CFAX1070.com.
If it's happening, it's here.
CFAX 1070.
CFAX Morning Show brought to you by Thrifty Foods. At Thrifty Foods, happy is filling the garden with local flowers, herbs, and soils. Get growing with super savings at Thrifty Foods BC Grown Garden Sale, which is on now. No crashes or accidents on the roads. Fairly typical volume delays out of the West Shore into downtown Victoria. I've been picking on the sort of Millstream Trans-Canada Highway area around about Costco as my neighborhood I'm looking at right now, and it's taking about 35 minutes to get from there right into downtown Victoria, which I would say is lighter than usual volume delays. No sailing rates at BC Ferries, and the weather looks decent too. Sunny, highs of 21 is what we can expect. Right now it's about, it's kind of varied out there, but around about 11 degrees depending on where you are.
Thanks for starting your day with us. Ryan and Lisa, mornings on CFAX 1070.
Well, a couple of generic versions of the drug Ozempic are arriving in Canadian pharmacies this week. It means patients who use the drug to treat diabetes or weight loss issues have more options and less cost. But we continue to follow just sort of what this means for society, the sort of ability to be skinny for cheap, which sometimes is not for a health reason, but just for an aesthetic reason. But, overall, what does it all mean for us? That's kind of what we're exploring here. And our next guest on the topic, Sarah Nutter, is a PhD, Associate Professor of Counseling Psychology at UVic, and is joining us on the line right now. Hello, how are you?
Hi, good morning. I'm great. How are you?
Great to get you here. Yeah, this is kind of part two of these conversations. We spoke to a doctor a few weeks ago, and he was talking about just sort of the amazing health benefits that these kind of drugs are affording people who have issues because of, being overweight or because of diabetes, these kind of things. It's a miracle drug when it comes to those kind of things. But talk about where you're coming from and how you study this.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm a psychologist and, as you said, associate professor at UVic, and I conduct research broadly on body image, eating disorders, weight-based prejudice, and then the broader social forces that influence these experiences for people.
Yeah. So this must be one of the big topics in that kind of research right now. Just, what all of a sudden this drug is doing. And it's playing out in celebrity culture, of course. There's just a lot changing, it seems, and it's all because of this drug. So talk about, begin with your focus here.
Yeah, well, obviously I can't speak for everyone who's taken a GLP-1 for various reasons, but generally, people who are choosing to use these drugs strictly for appearance purposes might be influenced to do so because they're dissatisfied with their body weight and appearance, and to some degree, maybe this is having an impact on their self-esteem or self-worth. And that's not surprising to me. Body dissatisfaction is so common in our society that 90 to 95% of people experience body dissatisfaction at some point in their lives, and often throughout their teenage and adult years.
And there was a few years ago that there was a big body positivity movement, and a lot of even celebrities who were trying to, say that, your body is okay the way it is. There was a lot of that, different bodies can be fine. And then Ozempic arrives, and it seems like all of those celebrities who were originally pushing those messages got real skinny real fast. What does that change for people?
Yeah, well, I think it's really important for us to stop and think about that praise and this change in the way celebrities are talking about weight and the weight they've lost for GLP-1s or whatever reason. And, perhaps we're seeing some celebrities these days that are quite thin to the point where maybe they're unwell and something else is going on there. Or, so I'm really curious as a researcher about how does this kind of praise for thinness and weight loss maybe reinforce the body dissatisfaction that people are feeling about their bodies, especially when celebrities are looking the way they do because they've had cosmetic procedures or, a team of people around them to create this illusion that everyday people can't achieve. But we're set up for failure because we're never going to achieve that body. But that doesn't mean we're not going to spend money to try to get there. And so I think that's the crux is, who's profiting off of our unhappiness with ourselves, and how is maybe our health being harmed in the process?
Sarah, I find it kind of mildly terrifying that it's becoming ubiquitous that we can get our hands on a drug that keeps us this way when social media pushes so hard for kids to be different, to stand out, to change yourself. And you're right, this body acceptance has sort of gone out the window, and this is helping push this in a fashion, I find.
Well, and that's how I see it. And it's hard because, we know that these drugs can help people who have, real medical concerns. And so I don't want to discredit that or, take that away from folks. But, I think we really don't know the possible long-term health outcomes and health consequences of these medications, even for people who have a medical reason to be on them. There was an article in BBC Science Focus the other week that summarized some really recent findings that people taking these medications are at an increased risk for vitamin and mineral deficiencies. So I think that's scary. And we don't really know the long-term health consequences of taking these medications when we don't have a medical reason and without medical supervision. And people can access these drugs online. And so, really concerned. And especially as you bring up, what's the impact on young people? What's the impact of social media and algorithms about this in terms of saturating our social media feeds with this kind of messaging?
And flipping the script to make it about the side effects that the drug offers is doing the drug a disjustice when it is for diabetes first and foremost.
Yes, exactly. Well, and I think like any other short-term weight loss strategy, people will then often, experience some weight gain if they discontinue taking these medications. And that can lead people to go back on the medication or engage in other weight loss strategies. And this, yo-yo cycle of weight loss and gain can really further perpetuate these self-esteem and self-worth problems that might, lead people to want to lose weight in the first place. So, beyond the side effects, it feels like it's potentially, a slippery slope from a mental health perspective.
It's, I guess, a balancing act because at the same time, as we've been hearing, this drug is benefiting so many people who, maybe are overweight, which comes with a lot of health complications itself. So the ability to lose that weight and become a healthy weight is a positive thing. But I guess that's Where is that healthy weight, and what is that for? And that's going to be different for different people. What's your advice for navigating this?
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point about health is going to look different for different people. We know from, research on the relationship between health and weight that that's actually much more complex than we think it is. We can't, gauge somebody's health based solely on their weight. And so I think, if you're wondering whether or not this is a medication you need, to gather health data, to know, whether or not this is indicated for you in promoting your own health, and to really seek out advice on that from a medical professional. But broadly, I think, I encourage people to perhaps move in the direction of feeling neutral or positive about their bodies, regardless of their weight and size. And I think it can feel really positive and empowering for people to think about the things their body enables them to do and achieve every day, as opposed to focusing on what their body looks like for themselves or others.
It's a good thought. As we wrap up with Sarah Nutter, PhD, Associate Professor of Counseling Psychology at the University of Victoria, looking into the rise of these GLP-1 drugs. The Ozempic-style drugs. We've got some generic versions now hitting the shelves in Canada. It's more affordable than ever in this country, but it does raise questions about the normalization of these drugs for aesthetic purposes as well as health reasons, which, of course, they seem to be a huge step forward for a lot of people who need it for health reasons. But I guess final thoughts, just its impact on society, how it's changing our perception of things. Last word to you on this.
Yeah, I think celebrities like Jamila Jamil have been raising the alarm on this kind of stuff for years. And I just asked folks to think about, who's profiting off of these drugs and our unhappiness with our bodies, and how do we feel about that? So.
Hey, great chat. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Have a good day.
And we'll. I want to keep exploring this topic. We'll seek out some more opinions as these drugs continue to make their way onto the shelves and kind of change the way we think about weight. Right now, 8 o'clock news is next.
CFAX Victoria,
An iHeartRadio station. If it's happening,
it's here.
CFAX 1070.
Good morning. It's 8 o'clock on Thursday, May 21st. Mostly a sunny day in store. A few clouds here and there, but sunshine and 21 degrees is mostly what you can expect as you head out. We'll get a full forecast in a moment. Right now, the news begins, and here is Lisa Best.
Thank you and good morning. Iran has released what it calls a Hormuz-controlled maritime zone, outlining the boundaries of the strait. And it says the newly created Persian Gulf Strait Authority will manage the very narrow waterway, about 20 miles wide, and near Iran's coastline. ABC foreign correspondent Tom Sufi Barrage explains why the U.S. say they're in control.
Iran has the ability to threaten ships, and that is why there are hundreds of ships stuck in the Persian Gulf to the west of there and can't get out. The U.S. military blockade is a significant distance to the east, beyond the Gulf of Oman, basically where that goes into the Arabian Sea. That is where the U.S. military has multiple ships stationed and is not letting any ships which are going to or from Iranian ports or having Iranian-linked goods on them to transit through those waters. So it's a U.S. blockade on the Iranian blockade.
A little bit of good news at the gas pumps locally. The price for a litre regular now sitting around $2.10 in Greater Victoria, lower even at some stations. Here's gas price expert Dan McTagg.
The world's missing 1.6 billion barrels of oil. What does that mean? That's the equivalent of not anyone using any form of oil for a full 16 days anywhere in the world. So it's very serious, and it means that gas prices could go up not as much.
Locally, gas prices hover between $2.05 and $2.19 a litre for regular. McTagg says after a few cent drop overnight, prices may drop a bit further, but we're also hearing that prices could climb again next week. So the yo-yo continues. And air passengers are feeling the turbulence as well. If you're planning to fly, you face more expensive tickets, the risk of canceled flights as well. An insurance expert advising those with summer plans to be nimble. Carriers are continuing to cope with sky-high costs for fuel, which prompts some insurers to classify the situation as a known event on insurance, and that would exclude any related travel disruption from coverage. Martin Firestone of Travel Secure says it makes it harder for you to protect yourself if your plan is derailed.
You can see even our Canadian airlines have consolidated some flights. We know they've added fuel surcharges. Like, it's happening. It's just a question of how bad it will be and how bad it will affect people's vacations.
The jet fuel crisis is an offshoot of Iran's closure, of course, of the Strait of Hormuz, leading to the prices we're now paying at the pumps. Prime Minister Mark Carney and BC Premier David Eby agreeing to negotiate the province's economic priorities as Ottawa's role in major national development projects continues. The talks may ease tensions over energy infrastructure after Eby criticized the federal focus on Alberta's pipeline proposals. Carney told the Greater Vancouver Board of Trade yesterday that any future pipeline would require the Pathway Carbon Capture project, substantial benefits for BC, and also mandatory First Nation consultation.
One of the benefits of actually sitting down and talking about these things, as opposed to litigating about these things across the federal government and provinces, is that it develops a shared understanding, a recognition of what needs to be done, an understanding of why this is the right thing to do, a commitment that goes beyond what's written on the page.
Negotiations are expected to influence, of course, how Ottawa balances resource development, Indigenous partnerships, and regional priorities. We're going to hear more on this. UBC political science lecturer Stuart Press will be live in a few minutes at 8:20 to talk about that closed-door meeting yesterday between the Premier and the Prime Minister, unpacking what was possibly said and what we do moving forward. Gig workers driving passengers to and from the World Cup festivities in Vancouver and Toronto starting next month are bracing for a lot of tension and traffic jams during the tournament. They foresee unruly, impatient, alcohol-fueled crowds as well as they try to do their job. Christine Hubbard is the managing director at Beck Taxi in Toronto. She says drivers and passengers are going to have to pack their patience.
I often liken it to a snowstorm. If you can't get around, neither can a taxi. We're not operating hovercrafts or small planes that can get you above the traffic. And so if traffic is at a standstill, as are we.
Uber says it's advising customers in both those cities to plan ahead because the wait times and the fares are likely going to be on the higher end. Everything regarding FIFA is high, including that $1 billion price tag to host the games. That's your news to 8:05. Your CFAX 1070 news poll question, we're asking, do you think it's worth the $1 billion investment to host 13 World Cup games in Vancouver and Toronto this summer? Over 90% say no. You can vote now at CFAX 1070 or the iHeartRadio app, Twitter X as well. And Lisa Best, your news time, 8:06.
Thank you, Lisa. We have outside right now a temperature of 11 degrees in some parts, up to 14 degrees in other parts of Victoria. We're seeing that at the airport right now as we head towards a high of 21 in the sun. Well, let's get to the CFAX 1070 sports. The Montreal Victoire are victorious. They brought home the team's first Walter Cup last night after a 4-0 win over the Ottawa Charge in game number 4. It makes the first time a Canadian team has won the Professional Women's Hockey League title, with the Minnesota Frost winning the first couple of years of the championship. In the NHL, the Montreal Canadiens are visiting the Carolina Hurricanes tonight. It's game 1 of the NHL's Eastern Conference Final, and the Vegas Golden Knights with a win at the opening of the Western Conference Final last night, Vegas beating Colorado 4-2. In the BCHL playoffs final round last night in Nanaimo, Brooks Bandits with an overtime win, 2-1 the score. That means they now lead the Clippers in the best-of-7 series 3-1, and they could win the whole thing with one more victory in Game 5, which happens to go back to Alberta and will be on home ice for Brooks. Nanaimo in tough as they head towards Game 5 tomorrow, trying to stay alive. Toronto Blue Jays in New York to take on the Yankees. It's the finale of their 4-game series. Toronto won 2-1 yesterday after the game was delayed by a couple of hours by rain. The Yankees can take the series with a win, having defeated the Jays in the first 2 contests. Seattle beat Chicago 5-4. And in basketball, the Western Conference Finals are all knotted up now. Canadian Shai Gilgeous-Alexander bouncing back from a subpar series opener to score 30 points. And the Oklahoma City Thunder beat the San Antonio Spurs 122-113. And that is your sports to 8:08. CFAX 1070 Morning Show. It's brought to you by Thrifty Foods. At Thrifty Foods, Happy is filling the garden with local flowers, herbs, and soils. Get growing with super savings at Thrifty Foods BC Grown Garden Sale, which is on now. On the roads, no crashes or accidents. It's been a fairly uneventful morning, knock on wood that it stays that way, and the commute out of the West Shore seems typical or even a little lighter than it can be. You can let me know if that seems wrong at 71010. Watch out for the paving work at Cook Street near Finlayson. Other side of Finlayson, that'll continue to obstruct things, and that road work is expected to continue for the next week as well. For the weather forecast, looking at a mainly sunny day, highs of 21 degrees. We're already at 14 at the airport. Then tonight, clear skies, maybe a bit of breeze off the Juan de Fuca Strait, lows down to 11. Tomorrow, another sunny day, same for Saturday. In fact, the next couple of days look much like today. Then it changes Sunday with some clouds, a little rain maybe coming in later into Sunday and lasting through Monday. That's the long-range forecast. And right now, like I said, 14 degrees for some of Victoria. In Shawnigan Lake, a little cooler. It's 9 degrees. On the markets, S&P TSX up 56 points to 34,216. In New York, the Dow is down 70 to 49,939. The Canadian dollar at 72.5 cents U.S. And hey, that barrel of oil still a little above $100 U.S. a barrel at $101.31, which is up $3 over yesterday.
in the kitchen, in the car, and at the office. Ryan and Lisa, mornings on CFAX 1070. Take us with you. Listen live on the free iHeartRadio app.
Well, the big thing in the news yesterday, of course, was the Prime Minister visiting BC and Vancouver, talking to Premier David Eby over along the waterfront.
One of the benefits of actually sitting down and talking about these things, as opposed to litigating about these things across the federal government and provinces, is that it develops a shared understanding, a recognition of what needs to be done, an understanding of why this is the right thing to do, a commitment that goes beyond what's written on the page.
So that is Mark Carney, the Prime Minister, sending a message. Wouldn't it be nice if we could all just talk about this instead of fighting?
Can we just talk?
Can we just talk?
Just talk here. But then they went behind closed doors and talked.
Yeah.
So.
And I feel like it's a little unclear where it all went or what it all meant. But, I mean, that was definitely seems to be the message is...
We had to cut through the tension first.
Yeah. Well, that's what sort of erupted because of the pipeline deals with Alberta that the federal government has been making, paving the way towards that. David Eby, again, leading up to yesterday, saying, hey, this is no fair. You guys are making decisions about BC without us at the table.
Right.
And also just feeling a little annoyed, as he put it, that the squeaky wheel separatist Alberta is getting all the attention. You know, he was making those kind of comments. I'm paraphrasing deeply, of course.
Well, you are and you aren't. I mean, Alberta this fall is changing their wild rose country signs to strong and free.
I saw that, actually. As you drive into Alberta, the wild rose country or county.
Wild Rose Country. Welcome to Alberta. Yeah.
Is now strong and free.
What's that remind you of?
Strong and free?
Yeah.
Well, that is I think the Daniel Smith's party's slogan.
Sounds very American to me.
And it's very, hey, we're doing it our way. Anyways, that aside,
yes,
I do feel like there was some messaging there from the Prime Minister trying to suggest that he's opening the door to having more conversations with BC, trying to have us all work this out together before we get to the point of what we had last time there was a pipeline discussion across BC, which was court cases and battles and fighting. And in the end, it didn't work out. And we still built the Trans-Canada expansion. It still happened, but we sure put up a stink about it here in BC. Can the Prime Minister find a way to do things differently?
Or more like, how will he?
How will he?
He has to.
What came out of that meeting between the two of them? What does it all mean? That's what we're going to be
fly in the wall, right?
That's what we're going to be dissecting next, because we got Stuart Prest, political scientist and regular guest here on CFAX 1070, joining us in just a moment to try to break down what we saw and sort of what's at stake here between Premier Eby and Prime Minister Carney as we get through this. So stand by for that. But right now, let's get caught up on the news headlines. And here's Lisa.
Conservation officers investigating after social media videos posted appear to show two men hand-feeding grizzly bears in Smithers. This was over the long weekend. In one video, a man is seen feeding a bear a carrot from a vehicle. Another shows a man outside a vehicle trying to feed a bear an apple. The incidents are believed to have taken place in the Hudson Bay Road area. Smithers officers say that behavior puts both the people and the bears at risk because it makes them not afraid of humans. Officers say penalties for feeding, attempting to feed, or attracting dangerous wildlife can range up to $100,000. There's also possible jail time attached to it. BC Sports Minister says an estimate from the Parliamentary Budget Officer says Canada is going to spend just over $1 billion to host the World Cup Games this summer. They say that's based on old data, though. And Kang says the numbers also don't take into account the positive offsetting of revenues and recoveries. Kang has promised that the province would provide updated numbers this month, but would not say whether they would be higher or lower than those released this year. A Leger poll done in March suggests 74%, three-quarters of those surveyed, support hosting the World Cup matches, while 65% say they're very concerned about the use of taxpayer money and government spending to do it. And Mount Everest, have you ever climbed it? Bit of a traffic jam. Officials say hundreds of climbers, 270 of them, climbed on Wednesday alone. That's a new record. Climbers took advantage of the record. I couldn't even do it once. Everest climbing season began late this year due to risks of a huge rock in the key route. And that's your news to 8:16.
All right, BC and federal politics with political scientist Stuart Prest from UBC. That's coming up next after traffic and weather. You see a problem out there? Is there a crash? Is there something slowing things up? Let us know at 71010. Let's talk CFAX 1070 traffic and weather. Fairly problem-free for the commute as far as crashes or accidents are concerned. If you see something, though, text us at 71010. We have for the BC ferries, no sailing waits, and we have for the weather forecast another pleasant day. Just like yesterday, it's going to be mainly sunny. Temperatures about 21 degrees. Cooler if you're by the water. That's just always the factor here in Victoria. Clear skies tonight, lows to 11. And then for the next couple of days, it's still looking the same. So the same weather pattern through Friday and Saturday. It's Sunday that it clouds over, and we might get into some rain Sunday and into Monday. Those are the change days. But yeah, stable weather for the rest of the week.
Ryan and Lisa. Mornings on CFAX 1070. Remember, you have us in the palm of your hand. For listeners on the go, listen live on the free iHeartRadio app.
Well, let's get into BC politics and federal politics with Stuart Prest, UBC political science lecturer, as we dial in on that meeting between the Premier and the Prime Minister yesterday and Mark Carney's address to that business meeting in Vancouver and dissecting what it all means. Let's get him up on the line. Stuart Prest, great to get you here again.
Good to be with you, Ryan.
Always great to chat. So first off, we were playing a clip before of Mark Carney kind of at that business meeting, sort of talking about his vision for let's all just get on the same page and work together and not fight about it. Here was what David Eby had to say outside along the waterfront of Vancouver as he spoke to reporters.
Columbia is that development work that we're doing of developing our economy has to go hand in hand with environmental protection for the next generation, including the North Coast tanker ban.
A few of the comments that were floating around there. What did you make out of yesterday's meetings and what came out of it all?
Well, I think it's pretty clear that Mr. Carney has an advantage here in that he has a single-minded goal, which is to push forward a pipeline, trying to assuage the concerns of conservatives generally and Alberta in particular, while Mr. Eby is having to walk a bit of a tightrope, which makes it more difficult for him to really get his points across. And I think that came through again yesterday.
Yeah, and the whole appearance from Mark Carney comes at this interesting time where we do have this ongoing collaboration between Ottawa and Alberta trying to get to a pipeline, getting through all of these hurdles that Alberta needs to achieve. And that, of course, eventually leads to pipeline across BC. And you've had the Premier continuing to sound like the guy who's been left out of the conversation and complaining about it. And so what do you make of sort of BC's position here?
Oh, I think he sounds that way because he is that guy. Yeah. He is representing a province about which significant discussions are being held, but not being part of those discussions. It's a very sharp change from the way in which we have understood federalism operating in the country up until basically now. This idea of a pipeline that starts in Alberta, but primarily goes through British Columbia, being constructed to satisfy energy industry interests and broader economic interests, but primarily focused in Alberta, but having all sorts of potential downside effects in BC. To not have the government of British Columbia part of those discussions, I think really does send a strong signal that of the federal government's priorities.
Now, what do you think came out of the meeting when it comes to Mark Carney and the Prime Minister trying to maybe include BC in those conversations? Because that seemed to be kind of part of the messaging he was sending, is it's time to get BC into the conversation. What did you hear out of him that might indicate that, or do you think that's even going to be successful? Or I guess I'm just trying to I'll rephrase this. I'm trying to get my head around what came out of yesterday's meetings. Where's this actually going from here?
Well, I think a couple of things came out. One, we had the three conditions from Mark Carney in his speech to the Board of Trade, talking about the need for significant economic impacts for BC for part of a pipeline to be constructed, but also to ensure that the carbon capture project pathways system is built, and to ensure that Indigenous concerns are being addressed through a consultation. So laying out these three checkpoints, but that are similar, but not actually the same as what we've heard from the federal government before. There's no mention of the British Columbia government's involvement at all, and there's not really any kind of specifics about what BC can expect from such a pipeline, other than expecting economic financial benefit. But it's the sort of thing that you could lay out in a memorandum of understanding between governments, such as that was between the federal government and the Alberta government. But we've seen no such thing here in the province. And I think for Mr. Eby's part, he again is trying to send these mixed signals of saying BC is open for business. They do want to be seen as a government that can get things done and shovels in the ground. They don't want to be seen as obstructionists, but they also have to stand up for core interests that include respect for established compromises and agreements regarding environmentally protected areas in the northern parts of the province, the right of Indigenous peoples to say no if they don't want development to go ahead. And so that, again, is that hard line to walk. And Mark Carney, for his part, is saying, we want you involved, but only if you're willing to say yes. And BC is trying to have a little more leeway. So this is the impasse.
And is that why we haven't been at the table? Is just that we are on this pipeline thing that seems to be so important to the federal government, to Mark Carney's government, that we've been not on board, and that's why we're not at the table? Or whose fault is it that we're not at the table?
I think it is a political calculation by the federal government. So Mark Carney's government has looked at BC's approach to this development issue and basically said, we're only interested in talking to people who are going to help us get things done. BC is not going to help us get things done, and indeed trying to engage with them to hear from the naysayers about a given political project is only going to damage our own reputation as getting things done. So we're just not going to engage with a partner unless they're willing to be a partner to get the project done. We only want to hear people who agree with us, basically. And that can work when you're popular. That can work when the wind is at your back. But I do think it can create problems down the road because it makes the government, the federal government, more like a cheerleader for a project and less like a regulator. That can damage claims that they are actually consulting in good faith with Indigenous peoples and can lead to dashed hopes if the pipeline does not eventually come off. There are real reasons to think it may never be built, and that can, if anything, provide new fuel to the fire of those who say Canada doesn't work. So it's a significant bet that the federal government's making.
If you were the provincial government, how do you play this from here? What do you think we're going to see out of this government?
Well, I think they are going to have to find a way to be really supportive of the idea of development, but in a way that can meet their own sense of what their red lines are. So I do think we may yet see a pipeline constructed through the lower mainland. I think if the federal government was really determined to force a route through the north to Prince Rupert or somewhere along that part of the coast, given the damage to ecological preservation, to Indigenous relations, I think that would be a huge battle and could have lasting damage to the country. But perhaps something more like an enlargement of the Trans Mountain Pipeline right of way or some other route through the lower mainland is possible. So the BC government has to find a way to say, this will work and we are willing to work with you to get this done, and to try to take control of the narrative in that sense.
I want to go to our text inbox, if that's okay, with a couple of comments from listeners at 71010. This texter says, Mark Carney told David Eby, to get the pipeline to water, you first need to look deep within yourself. Eby closed his eyes, reflected for a moment, and said, I'm sensing another environmental review. I think that's a bit of fiction writing there, but that's kind of fun. Then this texter at 71010 says, honestly, I have to say 90% of British Columbians want a pipeline and the revenue that comes with it and the jobs that come with it. Think of all the jobs from boat building to dock workers to boats and all of that for the industry. So I don't know if those numbers, that 90% number is true. I mean, maybe it is. Maybe some poll has shown that. But it does get into a point. A few years ago, if this was 10 years ago, I think there was a pretty strong BC public sentiment against these kind of things. But has that changed? Is BC now politically more open to these kind of things?
Yeah, the short answer is yes. There has always been a constituency for additional development in the province, including building additional pipelines, and that constituency has grown. Effectively, the shock to the system that was Donald Trump last year has caused a lot of many actors to rethink their commitments. Say, well, maybe we can bend a little bit on this. Maybe actually the development is more important than we thought, and we are willing to make additional sacrifices. But there are different ways to do that are more and less damaging, I think, and that's the reality that the provincial government has to find a way to communicate. Because part of the reason I think Mark Carney is taking this approach is because polls suggest that even most British Columbians want to see some form of additional development in the form of a pipeline. So it's hard to build a defense when you are on the losing side of public opinion.
It's interesting stuff after that meeting between the Premier and the Prime Minister yesterday and Mark Carney's speech to the Vancouver business audience. There you go. An analysis from Stuart Prest, UBC Political Science Lecturer. Always appreciate our chats. Thank you.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, Ryan.
All right, we'll take a break. 8:30 News next on CFAX.
From CFAX 1070.
Here's what's happening around the island.
Join Capital Bike for Spring Go By Bike Week, May 30th to June 5th. Register and find celebration stations at gobuybikebc.ca. Sign up for the Walk for Alzheimer's Sunday, May 31st at Fisherman's Wharf. More info at walkforalzheimers.ca.
Get more event info at CFAX1070.com.
If it's happening, it's here.
CFAX 1070.
CFAX Victoria,
An iHeart radio station. If it's happening,
it's here.
CFAX 1070.
Hey, it's 8:31 on this Thursday, May 21st, heading towards a high of 21 degrees. Right now, we've hit 14 at the Victoria International Airport with some sunshine along the way. We'll get you a full forecast in a moment. Right now, the news begins, and here is Lisa Best.
Latest on Victoria Council. At the Committee of the Whole meeting today, Councillor Stephen Hammond is going to propose new restrictions on the sale and storage of spray paint. This in an effort to reduce graffiti vandalism, the growing cost of cleanup it takes. He's asking city staff to explore bylaw options that could include banning spray paint sales to minors, also requiring secure or staff-controlled storage in stores, and introducing signage in stores warning against the misuse of it. The motion also calls for staff to consult retailers, police, the DVBA, First Nations, youth organizations, schools, and the sort to recommend their thoughts. City figures included in the motion show graffiti-related cleanup costs across departments have increased in recent years, rising from about $429,000 in 2023 to last year, which the tab was $472,000. The city figures say those totals don't include work done by business property owners or community groups. On the peninsula, Saanich is holding an open house in early June on possible changes to increase road safety on Wallace Drive. A series of traffic calming measures, including a lower speed limit, is being considered. Wallace Drive is a key route connecting Saanich, Central Saanich, and Highlands. The residents in the area say speeding and volume has increased, increasing the risks to pedestrians and cyclists. The Wallace Drive project focuses on the section of the street north of Willis Point Road. The open house planned for 10:30 Saturday, June 6th. That's at the Unitarian Universalist Church at 5575 West Saanich Road. Prime Minister Mark Carney is saying that new pipeline carrying oil from Alberta through BC will only happen under certain conditions, including the consultation of First Nations. Carney's comments came in Vancouver, where he did meet with BC Premier David Eby yesterday, as well as local business leaders.
The first is the building of Pathways, renamed the Oil Sands Alliance. This is the world's largest carbon capture, utilization, and storage project. Secondly, it requires that British Columbians should share substantial economic and financial benefits from projects that include or impact them. And thirdly, requires fully respecting Canada's duty to consult under Section 35 of the Constitution. Non-negotiable.
Carney also said that while Ottawa will adjust to give people what they want, it's essential that a resolution is found in a timely manner on topics such as pipeline. While we're talking fuel, with airline tickets growing more expensive, customers facing the risk of canceled flights, insurance experts are advising you to read the fine print on your insurance for summer travel. Carriers continue to grapple with sky-high jet fuel costs and have been consolidating some flights or adding fuel surcharges. Martin Firestone of Travel Secure says that's left passengers with uncertainty of whether they're actually going to take off and whether they're covered.
If you bought cancellation interruption, you're protected. It's too late to buy it now, and then whether a flight's outright canceled or delayed or rescheduled is what's up in the air right now.
Firestone says most insurers have classified the jet fuel crisis as a known event, and that is excluded for any travel disruptions, and your coverage will not apply. Gig workers driving to and from World Cup festivities are bracing for traffic and tension. During the tournament, they foresee a lot of gridlock on the streets of Vancouver and Toronto, constraining how many customers they can actually serve. Kristen Hubbard is the managing director of Beck Taxi in Toronto. She says drivers will be contending with a range of match day closures.
Pack your patience is really the message, because there's not really any way we can prepare for this. You can imagine we only represent about 1,200 vehicles maximum on the road at any time. But I expect we will see another 100,000 Uber drivers descending on our city. It's going to make getting around that much more difficult.
Uber's reminding customers to consider all transportation options. Plan ahead. 650,000 people expect in these cities in June and July. That's your news to 8:35. Your CFAX 1070 news poll question this morning, we're asking, is it worth $1 billion investment to host 13 World Cup games in Vancouver and Toronto this summer? 90% saying no. You can vote at CFAX1070.com or in the iHeartRadio app. And Lisa Best, your news time is 8:37.
Thank you, Lisa, and good morning. Welcome to Thursday. If you're heading out, expect just a sunny day, maybe a few clouds, and a high of 21 degrees. We're sitting at 14 right now. What else is in the forecast? We'll get you a full look in just a moment. Right now, over to the sports, and, well, there's a lot of sports to talk about for the NHL. Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final goes tonight as the Montreal Canadiens visit the Carolina Hurricanes. The Habs are coming off a thrilling Game 7 overtime win against Buffalo on Monday. Meanwhile, Carolina, they haven't played since May 9th after their back-to-back sweeps of Ottawa and Philadelphia. Last night, Carter Hart's 36-save performance carried the Vegas Golden Knights to a 4-2 victory over the Colorado Avalanche in the first game of the Western Conference Final. Then the women's hockey, the Montreal Victoire, have become the first ever Canadian team to win the PWHL's Walter Cup. Montreal shut out the Ottawa Charge 4-0 in Game 4 of the league's best-of-5 championship series. The Minnesota Frost are the ones that won the title in the league's first 2 seasons, so this is the first time a Canadian has done it. For some local hockey in the BCHL playoffs, in Nanaimo last night, it was the Brooks Bandits that defeated the Clippers 2-1 in overtime. That means the Bandits now lead the Clippers in the best-of-7 series 3-1. So they just need one more win to win it, the whole thing, and Game 5 is heading to Alberta, to Brooks for the next game. So they'll have home ice advantage, and they're poised to win. Can the Clippers stay alive? We'll see. That's tomorrow night for that Game 5. To the other sports that aren't hockey, Toronto Blue Jays in New York to take on the Yankees in the finale of their 4-game series. Toronto won yesterday 2-1 in that game. Seattle Mariners took Chicago White Sox 5-4, and the MVP was looking like the MVP again. And the Western Conference Finals are all knotted up in the NBA. Canadian Shai Gilgeous-Alexander bounced back from a subpar series opener with a 30-point night as the Oklahoma City Thunder beat the San Antonio Spurs 122-113. That's your CFAX Sports to 8:39. It's 8:40 here on Thursday morning. CFAX Morning Show brought to you by Coastal Heat Pumps. For a comfortable home no matter the season, big savings on your heating bill. Talk to Coastal Heat Pumps. Designed for comfort, the South Island's Elite Plus Fujitsu Air Stage dealer. On the roads, no crashes or accidents at this hour. If you see something, do text us at 71010. But it's been a pretty problem-free morning when it comes to those kinds of incidents. We do have the paving work back on Cook Street, either side of Finlayson, slowing things up. It's also slowing up Finlayson as you approach Cook Street. You can't go eastbound at times from kind of Quadra towards Cook. It's not all the time, but apparently they're restricting it depending on where the work is at. For the BC Ferries, Swartz Bay to Tsawwassen, 9 o'clock sailing is next. Lots of room left in the weather forecast. This sort of nice, stable, sunny patch of weather we've been in since yesterday continues today, continues tomorrow, and Saturday. So all these days look like this. Sunshine, highs around 20, cooler by the water. Rinse and repeat. Sunday is where it starts to cloud over. Maybe by later Sunday we're into some rain. Rain that could last into Monday in our long-range forecast. Right now, outside the CFAX studios here, we are sitting at 14 degrees, and that's pretty much where we're at across the region. A little different in some areas, like Shawnigan Lake, where it is 10 right now. On the markets, S&P TSX up 85 points to 34,247. In New York, the Dow is down 85 to 49,924. The Canadian dollar at 72.5 cents U.S., which is down just a little bit from yesterday's close. The barrel of oil is up about $3.67 to $101.93 U.S. a barrel.
Ryan and Lisa, mornings on CFAX 1070. Oversleepers, catch all the highlights on the latest audio podcast at CFAX1070.com and on the free iHeartRadio app.
Yes, CFAX 1070, home of the Summer of Rock all this summer, we're hoping to send lucky listeners to see rock concerts in Vancouver. With Helijet is the transportation, with Rosedale and Robson Street for the accommodation, and bands like, well, the Black Keys, who are performing later this month. They're our first band, and they're the band this week. So if you hear a Black Keys song, text the word rock to 71010, be entered into the draw.
Got to spell that.
R-O-C-K.
Because we're getting lots of Ricks.
We had a lot of Ricks. Maybe do I pronounce rock like Rick?
No, don't lose out on this because of a misspelled word. If you put the word rock in, you'll get a pushback saying that you're entered.
Yeah.
If you put Rick in, we'll ask who that is.
We'll be like, hi, Rick, how you doing?
Yeah, and you won't be entered, and that'll be sad.
And after this one, of course, we got Guns N' Roses, we got AC/DC, we got Motley Crue, we got all these great bands coming to Vancouver. We want to send you all summer long. And it's all powered by the Sax Point Pub in Esquimalt. It's the summer of rock, Lisa.
I like it.
Yeah.
Well, and as long as you don't trash the hotel room, we'll send you. You got to promise.
Is that
not to be a rock star or a Rick star.
We don't
Muddy the waters.
I like that.
Yeah.
We've got somebody just texted us, Rick.
Don't.
You're doing it on purpose.
Because
I know.
Then you wonon't be entered. We want you to win.
I see what you're doing.
In caps. Okay, we get it.
Joker.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, texters weighing on all kinds of things. Let's just go to the inbox and see what people are saying. You in the news, Lisa, we're talking about how Victoria City Council will be looking at this motion later today about, locking up spray paint to try to prevent graffiti. The texter says, hey, Lisa, it's a great idea that the city wants to lock up spray paint, but, if the other 11, 12 municipalities don't do it, what does it matter?
Agreed. I don't think locking up the spray paint is going to be is the issue.
Just cross over into Saanich and just buy some spray paint.
Yeah. It's like locking up no. It just doesn't. We've tried it. Other municipalities have tried that over the decades. I've seen it, and it just doesn't work. They'll take to painting or something. If there's a will, there's a way. But what we have to do is somehow crack down on it more. I think neighborhood watches are a really good thing. Because a lot of times tagging happens, of course, in the wee hours of the night.
Yeah.
When no one's around. So all eyes on your community is sometimes our best defense. Because it does cost a lot to clean up, and it is unsightly. Whether it's an expletive or it's just something, not right to say in public, obviously, whatever it is. Unless you're painting flowers, I don't want to see it.
Well, what do you think? City of Victoria Council will be looking into a motion about this later today. It's one of the things they're discussing, and we'll follow it. 8:45, time for the headlines with Lisa. What else is happening?
That new Leger survey shows what we're all feeling. The taxpayer burden of more than $1 billion remains a top concern heading into the FIFA World Cup games next month. Even as a majority of Canadians support being hosts of the games in Vancouver and Toronto, bringing some 650,000 people to our shores for the beautiful games. The headline number has renewed questions whether the overall cost is actually worth it. Health officials in Canada and the U.S. have now commented on that Air Canada flight bound for Detroit that was diverted to Montreal. The airline said that the passenger was denied entry to the U.S. as new regulations state that travelers from certain countries, including the Congo, can only enter through Washington, D.C. Congo and its neighboring Uganda have been battling an outbreak of a rare strain of Ebola that is suspected to have sickened 600 and killed at least 139 people. And with the weather warming up, another nice weekend underway, at least partially. There's offering of advice from experts on the safety of swimming for children. The organizations say that swimmers should take frequent breaks, stay hydrated, don't go beyond your limits, and keep a very close watch on children. Drowning for children can happen in 20 seconds. It's usually silent. There's no splashing or yelling involved. And severe brain injury can occur 4 to 6 minutes. Without oxygen, drowning is one of the top causes of death in young children, so let's keep them safe. That's your news to 8:46.
Thank you, Lisa. This weekend is a lot of things. We have the Oak Bay Half Marathon coming up on Sunday, and the Swiftsure International Yacht Race is taking place kind of all through the weekend with the big departure on Saturday, although in the Inner Harbor already. We've probably already got some boats arriving.
They're showing up today.
Yeah, this is going to be a big one. So actually, we're going to talk a little bit about all the events taking place this weekend coming up, including some things to know about the Swiftsure.
Developing political story, a big doozy.
Vashi Capellos.
What started as a dull day is anything but.
The top newsmakers.
Your go-to political debrief. Daily. What is really going on?
The breaking news.
Just moments ago. And the entertaining analysis and debate to follow.
I don't think you can sugarcoat it. It's an issue.
It's not true, guys. Yeah.
Vashi Capellos.
There is a greater plan here.
Vashi Capellos. Weekdays 9 a.m. to 11.
Bigger picture politically, which is
on CFAX 1070.
Hey, CFAX Morning Show brought to you by Thrifty Foods. At Thrifty Foods, happy is filling the garden with local flowers, herbs, and soils. Get growing with super savings at Thrifty Foods BC Grown Garden Sale. It's on now. On the road, still no crashes or accidents. It's been a pretty decent day for that kind of thing. Easygoing on the roads, and even lighter than usual volume delays out of the West Shore, I would say. It's still only about 30 minutes to get from kind of the Millstream and Trans-Canada Highway neighborhood around Costco in Langford to downtown Victoria. That's about a 30-minute drive right now, lighter than it can be. No sailing rates at BC Ferries, and the weather is looking sunny, highs of 21, a little cooler by the water. And tonight, clear skies, maybe a bit of breeze, lows down to 11 degrees. Friday and Saturday looking exactly the same as today. There's more sun, temperatures in the 20s, or I should say around about the 20-degree range, not too far into the 20s. The change day comes Sunday with the clouds and a bit of rain maybe coming later into Sunday and into Monday. Right now, 14 degrees is the official temperature at the Victoria International Airport, and that's about what we're seeing around the region.
Ryan and Lisa are ready when you are.
Good morning.
Day or night, find the highlights under latest audio at CFAX1070.com and on the free iHeartRadio app.
We're going to talk about the Swiftsure International Yacht Race coming this weekend for its 81st edition in just a few moments. But a bunch of text messages about the spray paint thing, Lisa.
Yes.
You had this in the news. City of Victoria Council later today. There's a motion from Stephen Hammond, councillor, to do with should we lock up spray paint and all of that stuff. And lots of text messages coming in on the topic of graffiti. This texter says, a few years ago, Colwood Orview Royal had a tagger who repeatedly painted a bridge, and they went after the parents for the cost to repaint the bridge. Most taggers are known to police, says this texter. That's interesting way to deal with it. Yeah. Just knock on the parents' door. Let them deal with it.
Yeah, especially if they're of a certain age. I don't know, is it a gateway crime? Maybe. But still, tagging in the neighborhood, it's mischief. I think it's mischief, if I'm right about that, not a cop. And yeah, it should come with a penalty. And if the kid can't pay it, well, then the parent will. And that parents don't like that. I wouldn't want to pay that for a child.
This texter says, the city of Victoria has chased out most big box stores. How many stores are actually left that sell any spray paint? Well, I don't think that's true. There's plenty of, you got
there's a lot of
there's a lot of them.
There's Home Hardware in Fairfield Plaza that sells spray. Like spray any
hardware store is going to do it. Yeah,
even art stores will sell for spray paint.
Go to Michael's. You got Canadian Tire and Hillside Mall. You got
you got lots of options.
Yeah, you got tons of them.
Kids.
Yeah. Anyways,
I'm assuming it's always children that do it, but
on that topic though, just because I think that springboards to this other thing we've been hearing about from other texters is that. If Victoria does this, it doesn't really matter if you can just cross the municipal boundary and buy spray paint somewhere else. So there's
Sometimes it's putting it on the radar, and I applaud Councillor Hammond for just putting it on the radar. what the bigger story here is the amount of money that they've been spending for cleanup. So he's trying to create a fix. Okay, the fix has some loopholes in it. It's a bit of a sieve. But anyway, it's still the amount of money that they're having to spend to clean up is really jumped. So that's the bigger problem. We're talking, $472,000 last year alone to clean up tagging. So, let's get our heads together and figure out a way to stop it from happening. Neighborhood watch is a big thing because I have a utility box in front of my place that gets tagged all the time, and the company comes and they paint it again, and then it gets tagged immediately again. So how do we stop that from happening? Got any answers?
No.
It's a bit of a challenge, right?
Yeah.
But that's it. That's the answer, is getting it to not happen in the first place, or at least stop it from happening. Because I see people put up beautiful fences in my neighborhood, and then a month later they get tagged and they have to scrub it off the wood. That's impossible almost to do. So it is very damaging, and it's time consuming, and it's infuriating, and it does not make our neighborhood look pretty. So kids, if you want to paint flowers, we're 100% behind that. I am anyway.
Just make it nice. Do some art.
Well, some of it is art. Graffiti art is a real thing.
I like when you designate a spot. Like, here's a wall. It's a graffiti wall for nice things. You don't just tag it, but because some of the art can be absolutely gorgeous. These murals people create.
Oh, and some people buy it and put it in their homes because it's so interesting. It's not to say that some of these people aren't artists in their own right. I mean, look at Banksy, as an example. However, just tagging for the sake of tagging is really a problem. And it's ugly in our neighborhood. I don't want to see it. I know other people don't want to see it. We certainly don't want to see it if it's a swear word or something worse. We have our rainbow walks get tagged, and that's, that hits the radar. I'd like it to stop happening. But in that, we're all responsible for our neighborhoods. We know that. So all eyes on the problem, maybe?
Well, there you go. It's going to be something.
We all have cameras, right? We have cameras.
Yeah.
And we have cameras that work in the dark. Maybe that's an option.
It's something being talked about at Victoria City Council later today, and our listeners are weighing in at 7:10.
Yes.
I really quickly wanted to just touch on something positive. We've got the Swiftsure International Yacht Race. Its 81st edition coming up this weekend. Boats will be showing up in the Inner Harbor. Today it'll be a big old party there, as it always is, and then Saturday morning it departs off of Clover Point. And on the Josh and Jade show yesterday, organizer of the race, Kirk Palmer, he's the race chair. He spoke about what this all is. And here's what he had to say.
In the Pacific Northwest, it's probably really the only ocean race that draws competitors from both the United States and Canada. So, it is probably, I guess is the largest race in the Pacific Northwest.
And it's not just one race.
Yeah, well, so then the longest is the Swiftsure Bank race, which goes out to what's known as the Swiftsure Bank, which is basically effectively 20 miles out into the open ocean once you get past the Strait of Juan de Fuca. Then the Cape Flattery race, and Swiftsure is 138 miles. Cape Flattery is 100. And then there's what they call the Clallam Bay race, or the Juan de Fuca race.
Okay.
And it goes to a marker in Clallam Bay, and the overall length of that is somewhere in the range of about 75 nautical miles. And it's generally the shorter races are for the smaller boats.
And that is all going to start right off of Clover Point. They got a big pancake breakfast going on there Saturday morning around 8, and then the actual start time is around about 10. I think the different races.
That was 9.
He said, well, here.
He said 10? Okay.
What does he say?
Get there early.
Here is Kirk Palmer on when to go.
Well, the Clover Point is the best place to go. The race starts at basically 10 o'clock if there's any wind at all. There is I believe it's the Lions group put on a pancake breakfast down there starting at 8 o'clock.
So there you go. Those are his times. I mean,
okay. Oh, I'll go with his times.
Yeah.
They all line up. So whatever time you get there, and they move pretty quick, actually.
Yeah.
Once they get going, of course, it's a race for that matter, but it is so beautiful to watch. And what's neat is all the people that show up to take photos, to enjoy. You've got some older sailors sitting on the. I've talked to some of them. You can see the maritime is seeping out of their pores, and they've got so many stories, and they're just sitting there with this look of nostalgia on their face, knowing what it's like out on the open water. So super cool to watch the audience as well as the race.
Well, the Swiftsure International Yacht Race, it's this weekend. Off Clover Point is a good place to see the start, but you'll see just sails out there, out in the Straits, Saturday and Sunday, as this thing does usually take a couple of days to play out. We'll leave it there, though. Thanks so much for joining us. Thank you to Morgana Adby for producing today's show, and we will talk again tomorrow.
CFAX Victoria,
An iHeartRadio station. If it's happening,
it's here.
CFAX 1070.
Good morning. I'm Lisa Best with your CFAX 1070 news to 9 o'clock. U.S. Customs